Yes. One.
I guess looking at it on here.
Was the concert last night? What's his name? Quit again?
He left the band. He sure did. About halfway through. 2 minutes late, he quit the band. Yeah, they got in the fight and they left.
It's on your
James. Posted, somebody posted it at one of their shows.
One in between.
The majority of the people posted didn't get it. They didn't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I figured.
But that's okay. That's all right. I would have walked off too. I think they said.
So they actually have them.
That's next.
Leave as it may be, so I clear.
They've had that as a store, no, this is east and west, sandwich in, past Bliss, there's Bliss Circle. Yeah, there's Bliss Circle.
I never.
Circle.
Maybe I need to go to college.
Hey, Todd, are you recording? So. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call the Centerton City Council meeting to order for September 12th, 2023. Everyone in attendance, please stand and join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Keith, will you lead us in prayer?
If everybody please remain standing. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the weather that we had this past Saturday for a wonderful Centerton day. Lots of visiting and meeting of old friends was made again. Lord, also help us to keep in mind the families that lost people in this past 22 years ago for 9/11. Lord, help us keep that in our memories. Hopefully we will not see another terrorist attack on our home ground and keep us as a great nation. And Lord, thank you for this town that we live in. The people that work here, I feel like are doing a great job. And Lord, just be with them as they do their jobs. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, sir.
Annie Rochette.
Here.
Justin Cowger. Here. Keith Higginbotham.
Here.
Josie Reed.
Here.
Darren Warren.
Here.
And Misty Elam.
And before I get started, I just wanted to say good job to Todd. I know he ran the meeting last month. I watched it on Zoom and did a good job. And so,
Yes.
no, you made it. You did.
Yes.
You did a good job. Appreciate you filling in. So, all right, first on the agenda is approval of the city council meeting minutes from August 8th and August 22nd. And they've been in your Dropbox for several weeks. Something like make motion to adopt those minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, aye? Anyone opposed? Something like make acknowledgement of the Centerton Water and Sewer Commission meeting minutes from July 18th. Planning Commission meeting minutes from August 1st and August 15th. Parks and Recreation from July 10th. Advertising and Promotion Commission meetings for June 13th. Board of Zoning Adjustment from August 1st. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Oh, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, next is the financial report. I'm gonna bring Shannon up. You guys provided you a copy of the report. The same was in the Dropbox, but she has provided you a copy for everyone to review.
Hello.
Is that microphone on? Yeah, okay. I don't know if I turned it on.
So we are 67% of the way through the year. And so again, our revenues need to be above 67%. Our expenditures need to be below 67%. We're currently sitting at 71% in our revenues and 64% in our expenses. So we're sitting really well. I always make sure I let all the department heads know to watch their spending. And I attached our ambulance report for the month of August. And like I said before, we were getting like 14,000 a month or so, and now it's up to 28,400. So it's paying a lot more and it'll just keep going up every month. Does anyone have any questions for me?
What's the expense per month on the ambulances? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The fire trucks. Are you gonna come back with Matt tonight, talk about the fire trucks and the budget piece and finance?
I wasn't gonna talk about it.
I'll,
All right, never mind, no question.
If you need any information, I can email it to you, whatever you need. Anything else?
Thank you.
somebody make a motion to accept the August financial report and also the court report.
So moved.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Anyone opposed? All right, next is department reports, and I'm gonna ask Cody to come up, give us an update on the shelter.
Good evening. The construction projects are underway at the shelter. The drainage project just finished up and has been cured long enough as far as the concrete that went back around the drains. So we're gonna be back utilizing that as of today. On Saturday, we'll start the epoxy of the actual cinder blocks themselves that make up the kennels. That'll probably be at least a 6 to 8 day project, we're thinking, on that. The ventilation, all the equipment has been ordered. It'll be in hopefully by the end of September, except for one of the exhaust fans. It is back ordered, not the fan itself, but the motor that makes up the fan is back ordered until sometime early next year. But it's for the newer side of the kennel. On the newer side of the kennel, we have a big gable fan that we still utilize now. So that'll get us by, in the meantime, before we, so their exhaust fan. We'll still be able to get those air changeovers. Won't be as quick, but it will still. What we do. As far as with that, as soon as that equipment starts, obviously, the mounting, the electrical, all of the things that go along with getting those that ventilation system in will start taking place. Hopefully by the next couple weeks, if not the 1st of October, along with having the dishwasher in there, hopefully by second, third week of October, because that's all due mainly upon the electrical once that is finished. So the construction projects are moving along. So we're hoping, if we can get materials and we can get things, end of October. So we're hoping at least before Thanksgiving, all of those different projects will be completed.
Do you have cameras yet? Figure out which system you were with?
We're going to be utilizing the same system that we utilized at the police department, and also what the fire department uses. All of the cabling is in the hard drive, the server, whatever, I'm not sure what it's called exactly. It was supposed to be in on Friday of last week. So hopefully they'll be finishing that up this week. As far as the computer system and the server, the server is still in process of being built. They had quite a backlog on those. It's still estimated to be delivered, second to fourth week of this month.
We doing okay with employees? Are you still?
Right now, right now I have, Jeremy as ACO, I have Jordan as our adoption and front of the house. Then I have, Taylor, Bree, and then we have 2 temps right now as well. So right now we're fully staffed.
Any questions for Cody?
Any questions for Cody, but did we decide if we're going to decide what we're doing with the shelter as far as having a humane society or making it just a normal shelter? Like, have we decided the direction that we're gonna go?
So discussion topic that represented. I was remote last month, so the month before, so. I mean, it's just after going to training, you have to, I thought we were doing the right thing by having the space and housing all of the animals that we currently have. There's a difference in thought and stuff like that as far as how long they're kept. you know, their length of stay, with how that affects them, you know, how that affects them long term. You know, so we got, there's a lot of things I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around as far as what is best to do. You know, and luckily we made a lot of good contacts, at the conference that we went to. So I'm utilizing the resources, trying to figure out the best way to handle some of our long-term stay dogs. Got some resources as far as getting them some training, because I think that's probably our biggest issue with our long-term stay dogs is how they react to people, how they interact and how kind of crazy they are. You know, but trying to get some of that stuff, you know, worked through.
So are you saying that you're leaning more towards a humane society just based on your training or?
Well, even with the Humane Society, even when you classify something as like a no-kill shelter, the target is 95% of a live outcome. That is what the target is of an shelter. Now, we have been well exceeding that for years. It's just trying to figure out what do we do with some of these longer terms that we have. Like, we have one guy, Bo. I mean, he's going on. It was 400 days when I made the count. He was the number one, the red, kind of looks like a pit bull, but he's not really.
Been there 400 days?
400 days. You know, it's like, we have to figure out how we can help out some of those dogs now.
Like that, can we do like a free adoption?
But we can't.
Has that not helped?
Not with him, it hasn't. It's not that he is a good dog. Once you can get him that initial,
Excitement.
correct. But he can go out and you can exercise him, and he's one of those dogs that just can turn around in a heartbeat and be ready to go again. So just trying to figure out some of those things. That's where I think some of the training aspects will come into it. Had a good contact that I can get him as many dogs as possible. He doesn't have the long-term housing solution, but he can soak resources into training.
Is there, and educate me, because I don't know, in a case like that, is there a surrounding city that we could, that is more of a humane society type that we could give the animals to? Or, because I think at some point we have to determine what we are, right? So for ourselves, for the citizens, we need to determine what are we and what are we going to do? But there's no surrounding cities that.
These dogs have been here for so long, everybody knows that we have them. It's just nobody's willing to take them on, or they're at capacity. You know, by going to the training, seems like almost every shelter, every rescue is at or beyond capacity. I mean, it's just crazy hearing some of the stories. Like for instance, like Bentonville's been at capacity since opening their doors the first week.
It's like lost dogs, like,
These are all dogs that we have been picked up. We don't do owner surrenders.
and their owners don't look for them again, or
On a very, so
dog if you don't want it.
we have a general standing rule that we don't take owner surrenders. So every single dog that we have has been picked up by animal control. So Bentonville, I'll let them make the judgment call on it. I got a call, it's been probably about a month ago now. A dog was found in Bentonville. They tried to take it to Bentonville, kind of like on the border over by like Tater Black, you know? And so they were like, well, we have capacity. I was like, then you guys make the call. And I was like, I'm not gonna tell you to take on a dog that was picked up not inside our city. And they chose to bring the dog to our shelter, which I told them, I was like, I'll back you guys away. Because you guys are the ones that are, you know, taking care of that animal.
How's the advertising then going for that? Or, you know, hey, we have these dogs and.
Facebook is up and running really well. Now, the next part and what I'm trying to do is broaden our network. And pushing that as well, because if we can't find it here, or if we have it published out there and there's nobody wanting to adopt these certain dogs, then we need to broaden our outreach.
I was gonna say, do we ever advertise on AM radio? Favorite radio station that's always talking about Centerton.
I'm not sure, but I don't believe we have. Every once in a while we get picked up for the, you know, the animal of the week.
I'm sure that advertising is pretty inexpensive, at least it used to be, but.
They brought a couple dogs to center today, some of the longtime dogs.
And that's,
Got a lot of attention, but nobody took them home.
and those are two puppies that we're, wanting to get some interest in. Like we have one dog, he's a very big German Shepherd. Great with people, little, crazy sometimes, but you can't put him with any other animals. Because he does not take any other animals whatsoever. So with people, great. So trying to figure out where we can place him without having a non-live outcome is where we're struggling. Because I thought it was better to allow him to stay at the shelter. We have the space. But literally, one of the instructors asked me, well, would you want to live in a half bath the rest of your life? Well, no, I wouldn't, so we have to start thinking about how do we get our long-term stay dogs out of there.
We do petfinder.com. Do we list on there?
So that'll be a part of the software. It'll update our adoptable dogs to various websites that are out there.
That will help.
Right now, it is what we have is our biggest is a social media page.
Amy wanted a long-term dog, it was like 2 weeks ago. It was on KNWA Pet of the Week too. And I think they said the dog was there 300 and some days.
Red one, right?
I don't know which one it was, but I remember.
I know Axel was on there, Bo's been on there, Bruce has been on there. Bruce, I'm hoping to get him to turn him into a search and rescue dog. Because he's very big, but he's got a good drive. So trying to get him placed with some contacts that we met at the conference.
Does KNWA, is that like a free service that they?
Yeah,
do?
it's free and all the TV stations do. They just rotate the shelters.
Right, I'm just thinking like trying to get even more exposure if we paid a little bit for.
Right now, we're running more of a very no-kill, shelter. We're not running a rescue because just like Bumper, that was the dog that came in that was blind. We found a rescue for him, but obviously we don't have the capabilities of long-term housing with a dog that's blind. But we can try and get him a place to be. So luckily enough, one of the rescues in the area down by Fayetteville took him, and they have a good placement for him. So stuff like that. We're running our framework right now is a very much as close, we are a zero kill. We haven't euthanized a dog all year long. And what was done last year was very minimal. So we've been exceeding the 95% standard for a long time. So. But in my mind, after going to training are we still being humane by allowing them just to be at the shelter? That's the questions I'm struggling with.
Right, and I think at some point we need to determine what kind of shelter are we?
I think council's recommendation in the July meeting was that we are a shelter, not a rescue.
Right, that's kind of where I was going, like, what did we decide and are we gonna keep talking about it, or did we make a definitive decision? Like, that's kind of where I was going.
Unless somebody can actually get my head wrapped around, I still like Axel and Bruce. No, I'm not gonna go and on a euthanization tomorrow. No, I want to figure out what is the best way of doing that, because I can't have a hard time putting my head around that when I have the space. So that's where I struggle with some of the things from training.
What to do with them next when they've been there that long?
Yeah. And how can we get them into a rescue, or how can we get them adoptable?
Are we even open to, I know it costs money. Realistically, it costs money to take care of it there. The food and everything. So like, is there anything we can do to like just be very thorough in the description and like offer maybe 6 months of free food? I know that doesn't help in the long run, but
so it's never, so we haven't had one brought back because of food or a lack of resources.
it's still less of an expense though.
Right, but it's been, they get to the house, they're there for a day or two, and they don't like cats, or they don't like other dogs, or the interaction didn't go real well with the kiddos. It's a more of a behavioral thing when they come back to us after they're, in foster or in home trial. Or somebody, hey, I want to adopt, so we do a home trial, they get brought back most likely out of all the times because of a behavior issue. It just didn't go well. So it's never been a resource thing. We have food and things at the shelter that we've been more than happy to give out. We have the donations that come in, so we have been kind of putting those over to the side to be able to give out to the public. To also give out for adoptions and things, since we have a stockpile of food. Shelter. It's just, I mean, being, new, it's just a lot of things for me to figure out. A lot of things for me to wrap around that I didn't think about previously.
Thank you.
All right. All right, and anything else on department reports?
Did we get, I'm sorry if this was in there, I may have missed it. Anything on the smart gov? Any update?
Go.
It's supposed to go today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's supposed to go live pretty quick.
Yeah.
We've been hearing that for 2 years.
What, pretty quick, like,
Yeah, what we can do, I'll have Brian give an update under other business, because we've actually had to get Brian involved.
okay, that would be great.
So I'll let Brian just do an update on other business,
Okay, perfect.
okay? All right. So next is public comment. And this is where anybody wants to come up and speak to the council. It's your opportunity, you get 3 minutes. If you do come up, please give us your name and address. This is not a question and answer session. We just take your comments and then we'll move on. So at this time, public comment is open. Anyone like to make public comment to the council? Once,
It's coming.
all right, 3 minutes. Okay, give us your name and address.
Diana Allen, 201 Blake Drive, Centerton. I just have a question. Last year, when they were doing I know it's not paving, but whatever you did, the blacktop, it stopped one street over from mine because of weather. I think it stopped in October, so here we are, September of the following year, and it hasn't been done.
Probably be paved within the next 2 weeks.
Huh?
Probably be paved within the next 2 weeks. Blake Drive. Yeah, they're out there working now. Yeah, within the next 2 weeks.
That's all I had.
All right.
That was a loaded question. How'd you know that one? So
Well, because that's where it did stop. She talked to me
you
already.
told her to ask that. Come
No,
on.
no, I didn't tell her. But they're actually doing Majestic Seal down in Quail Ridge right now, and then they're supposed to mobilize the asphalt next week or two, so.
That's it.
Yeah, they're actually getting asphalt this time instead of Majestic Seal, so it'll be better.
Okay.
All right. Any more public comment? Name and address.
Lee Brookhauser, 51 Laurel Circle. This will be my last time addressing because I'm moving. Yay.
What was your name?
I wasn't going to. But it was not addressed how one of the dogs died in his kennel at the shelter. And I'm still very curious about that since I had an adopter going to get him and was told that he was gone. When she inquired more why, they said he was found dead in his cage. So while there's been no euthanasia, there's definitely been some dogs die. That's what I want to know is why did Damon die?
Did you email the police chief that question?
I emailed the council and they addressed him that I'm.
They don't take care of the day-to-day operations. The police chief does.
I think,
I've seen the email.
I forwarded it to
Yeah, he
you.
forwarded me and he gave the update like, yeah, so. Cody, you want to come up and talk about that real quick?
I was gonna say, I don't hear about the dog.
He told me about it. He just asked for an update though.
Well,
Of the shelter.
I meant on everything that the email pertained to.
Okay.
You want just the last little bit that he was with us, or you want a full breakdown?
So whatever you have.
So the first time, so his name was Damon. So the first time he came into the shelter was back at the 1st of April, the 2nd or the 4th, I believe. He was found, most likely by a car, I believe on South, if I remember correctly. But he was hit by a car, so on the 2nd, which was a Sunday. He was taken to the Rogers Humane Society by the notes given to me on Sunday about 10 o'clock. I was told to take him to the vet on Monday, so that was Monday the third, for x-rays. Took him to the vet on to Oakwood on the third. And x-rays came back clean, just road rash, and he had a bladder infection. Brought him back to the shelter, posted him to Facebook and between social media, seeing him on, the owner had posted him, so they all got connected, and he was back to his owner within a couple of days. His owner passed away. He came back into the shelter in May. Let me get the date, 16th. Came back, he was with us until he passed on a Sunday. He was with us since May 16th. So I got, on the day he passed, I got everybody's statements and tried to figure out what was going on. Damon, for the 2 weeks prior on the daily observation reports, was noted as being depressed, just kind of not being excited, just, being depressed. Within that 2 weeks, he went for a home trial. He was out of the home trial for a day and a half. Came back from the home trial, was still acting depressed. So on that Sunday that Damon passed, Jordan was like, hey, let's get him out of the shelter. Took him to the dog park, let him play the dog park, let him play in the creek. Brought him back to the shelter, had him stay in the common work area that has the good cool floor and the air conditioner and everything. He was there until he cooled down and was ready to go back to his kennel. Had water and everything in his kennel. They came back 2 hours later and he had passed. So I don't have a good explanation as to why he passed. There was no obvious signs that he was in any kind of urgent medical need. He was a dog, by looking over the reports and talking to the staff, who ate when he wanted to eat and wasn't all that particular in food all the time. So he was not a dog who ate extraordinarily well most of the time. He would eat what he wanted. They tried doing different things, wet food, dry food. So nothing that would say that he had a bowel obstruction from anything, no diarrhea, no vomiting, no blood in the stools, so nothing that would seem to be crazy out of whack with him. So.
A young dog or an older dog, do you know?
He was younger. I don't know the exact age of Damon, but he was a younger dog. He wasn't geriatric by any means. He was young. He wasn't an old gray-haired dog. So I don't know exactly why, but I can't say that anything was done at the shelter that would have made him pass suddenly. I don't know. So
Separation, wanted to go back and visit his owner.
right, he was back with us. Try to scan everything in to make it faster, but it always doesn't work out. So his last 2 weeks of observation reports, he was on a home trial on the 11th or 12th. 11th and 12th came back sometime probably on the 12th or the 13th. That's when still noticed he was just acting depressed, and that's why Jordan took him on a field trip outside of the shelter. So Jordan's our adoption specialist. So she took him on a field trip. He came back, seemed to be fine, picked up his spirits by Jordan.
Found of another dog that did the same thing. Just, I don't know if it's the same. It was raised from a pup by his owner, and the owner passed. Dog didn't last very long, just separation.
He was with us for about a little over 3 months. After his owner passed. So no major medical, no major needs to go to the vet. Medication list that he was on after he came back to us after that was dewormer. So very, very standard
How many pups or how many dogs do we have in the shelter right now?
34.
Out of how many slots?
Well, we're trying to be at.
The construction going on, obviously.
I mean, so when we're only able to utilize one section of the new side, we're at full capacity. Just because of not being able to let dogs inside and back and forth. If we were to go to absolute full capacity, we're talking 53 and another, so we could house 70 dogs. If we did not use the guillotine doors and use the double sides to let them in and out and to, for cleaning and things, like if we put a dog in every single kennel, it would be 73, 72, 73.
So let's say in this situation, obviously the Rogers Humane Society, I think is what you, before the owner passed. If we go to Amy's point, the direction of being more of a shelter versus a rescue, I just think we need to clarify what it is, obviously, long term, but like if we call that Humane Society and Rogers, when things like this happen, like, do they accept in, do they not, like, since we're a police department, how's that work?
So Rogers Humane Society also takes the sheriff's department, dogs and things, so they're under contract with them for the housing. Now, we just use the Rogers Humane Society for their veterinary care, since it was available on that Sunday. Yeah, so. That's why, with that, since we have the capacity, can't necessarily ask them, especially when it's a dog that we just found. Because on that day, we had just went out there and picked him up. So from there, we have to wait a minimum of 7 days before we can seek any other kind of housing or before the dog becomes the ownership of the city.
Thanks.
All right, anything else for Cody? All right, thank you, sir. One last time, anybody else for public comment? Yeah, public comment is closed. All right, next, we have 3 public hearings. For some vacation of property, and then we'll have ordinances later in the meeting to discuss these. So the first public hearing will be vacate 15 feet of 25-foot rear yard setback of lot 32, 1560 Glastonbury Drive. That's in the Lexington subdivision. At this point, would someone like to make a motion to open the public hearing, the first public hearing? Got a motion? We have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, is there anyone in the public like to speak on this vacation? Once? Or twice? Somebody make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, next is vacation of lot 69 of the Tuscany subdivision. This is located at 101 Florence Drive. This is for variable amounts. The minimum is 3 foot up to 9 foot. And I'll show it to you on the map when we get to the ordinance. At this point, somebody like to make a motion to open that public hearing. Got a motion, we got a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, the public hearing is open for this vacation. Anybody in the audience want to speak on this one? Once, twice? Okay, somebody make a motion to close this public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, the last public hearing is to vacate 15 feet of a 25-foot rear yard utility and drainage easement. This is in the Oak Tree subdivision. This is at 460 Trailwood Circle. I just talked to the owner a minute ago. So this is 460 Trailwood Circle. And at this time, would somebody like to make a motion to open this public hearing?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, this public hearing is open. Anyone like to speak on this rear yard utility drainage easement vacation? Going once? Twice? So I can make a motion to close the public hearing. Okay, we got a motion. We have a second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so now we'll get to ordinances and resolutions. Would someone like to make a motion to read ordinance 2023-53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, resolutions 2023-35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40 by title only?
Second.
Okay, roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger,
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
Someone like make a motion to suspend the rule requiring to read on 3 separate occasions. Ordinance number 2023-53, 54, 55, 56, 57, and 58.
We'll move.
Got a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger.
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
All right, so our first ordinance is ordinance 2023-53. This is amended Title 14, adding chapter 1409, wireless communication towers and small cells. I think Lorraine wanted to come up and make a small change to what's in there. This is like a 32-page document. This was had a public hearing at the August 15th Planning Commission meeting, and they spoke about it and recommended to the council for approval. And I think, like I said, Lorraine had one small change.
Okay, on page 2 of the ordinance. What we did, we made cell towers where they do not have to go through the conditional use process in the zoning districts of A1, I1, your agricultural and your industrial, and your I2, which is your heavy industrial. Under section B, number 1, it had originally been just for agriculture. I have left out, so the property meets current A1 specifications. I need to add I1 and I2 in that paragraph. And that's the only change in the ordinance. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions regarding.
So are we adding this whole thing or just?
Yes, okay. Yes, this is a completely new section in the zoning code. Previously, there were not any requirements for cell towers. And then they have what, we're used to big tall cell towers. But there are some of the small cell, which are located in various cities, and you can see them, like if you go to Little Rock, you can see them mounted. I have some examples.
The ones that are kind of disguised, if you will. Is there any way we can do that where it doesn't look like a huge tower right in the middle of a?
As far as the huge towers, we do have conditions in here that state that they would.
Cactus.
There's one in Benton that looks like a tree.
You used to have one as a flagpole right across the street.
There's a section on page 3 for new towers, and that they will meet the following conditions. New towers shall be limited to monopole type structures.
I'll put it there for you, Amy.
Okay, with internal antennas, and then stealth camouflage type tower structures, which exclude towers which mimic trees or other vegetation, because they have found not to be a blend in. So we'll look at different types, but typically the monolithic pole is the typical one that would be used. And then this also goes through and establishes setbacks, screening. Those are the main thing, what they would require for when they submit plans to the city. So, and then the other types are the small cell, and those are the ones that are located, you'll see them on street corner. And there's some photos of those in the back. Most of this on page 26 and 27. So you'll see those disguised. Find that.
So my question is, so they have to, if there's a piece of property zoned agricultural, it has to meet the requirements. So if it's 5 acres, it has to be 5 acres versus piece of property they got annexed in, comes in agricultural and it's only a 0.2 acre lot. They can't put a tower on that.
It needs to meet the requirements, because yes, there are some pieces out there that might have 1 acre. They, or even less on some that.
Cause I could see someone saying, oh, this is agricultural. I can just build a tower on here by right. And then it'd just be a tiny lot. So, okay. Want to make sure I was clear on that.
Okay.
Beforehand, it was kind of, for a lack of better term, kind of willy-nilly, just, we really didn't have anything. And this is more structured.
This is definitely more structured and lays it out what their setbacks would be. And what is needed on the plans, because before we did not have anything to give to them that stated what the city needed to consider. So this has 4 conditional use and then the development, for the this is set up so that it can receive administrative approval and then the planning commission can ratify that approval. So if they meet these conditions, it just saves everyone a little bit of time, and with the approval, they can go ahead and get started with, and then it would be going for ratification. So we're kind of working on setting up new requirements in the zoning code so that can happen, where staff works on making sure that it meets the requirements. And hopefully some of our meetings won't be quite as lengthy as they are.
How often are we getting any requests for cell towers, or is this just like a preemptive thing?
I wouldn't say preemptive, because we've had several. Yeah. A while, but.
Interesting.
Most recent, you have one on Town View, then you have one over here at the water office, the most recent ones we've had.
We started working on this, what, 2 years ago? We had Garver help with this, is that right?
Yes.
Juliet?
I know we had one, and it's been several years ago, that when they came before I don't remember if I was on the planning commission hearing it or if it was before the council, but they were talking about putting in a cell tower, and they were saying it was gonna look like a pine tree.
Adel has one like that.
Well, if you remember the one what the city's pit stop, I don't, what's it called? Yeah, we ended up with a flagpole, but there were different things discussed, whether it was a clock tower or, and there was mention of the tree, but when everyone saw the pictures of the tree, they were, nah. And it was really tall. They replaced the flag on it and when they were done. And this also has, when it is banding, the tower. Co-location, replacing of antennas, because we get a lot of those questions, especially. What we need to do if they're replacing some equipment on a tower. This will take care of it.
Any more questions for Lorraine?
Reggie's out.
Counselor?
All right, City of Centerton ordinance number 2023-53. Amending Centerton Municipal Code, Title 14 zoning, adding chapter 14.09 wireless communication towers and small cells, and declaring an emergency.
I'm gonna make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-53.
We'll move.
We have a motion? Second. And a second. Roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger, Keith Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Aaron Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Section 3, the City Council of the City of Centerton, Arkansas hereby declares an emergency. And this ordinance being necessary for the immediate protection of public peace, health, and safety shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval.
Someone like make a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette, Justin Cowger. Yes. Keith Higginbotham.
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Aaron Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
All right. Our next ordinance is ordinance 2023-54. These next three will be a result of the public hearings we had a minute ago. This is vacating 15 foot of a 25-foot utility and drainage easement at lot 7 in the Oak Tree subdivision, lot 460 Trailwood Circle. The planning commission did review this and they recommended to the city council for approval. Any questions? And the owner's here, I believe he was here somewhere. Yeah, okay, I spoke to him earlier. He's here if you have any questions for him. Okay, hearing none, Counselor, let me put it.
City of Centerton ordinance number 2023-54. An ordinance vacating a portion of the north 15 feet of the 25 foot rear yard public utility and drainage easement located along the south property line of lot 7 in the Oak Tree subdivision, city of Centerton, as shown on plat record book 2007, page 868, Benton County, Arkansas, also known as 460 Trailwood Circle.
Someone like make motion to adopt ordinance 2023-54. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger,
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham.
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Karen Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2023-55. This is vacating 15 foot of the 25 foot utility and drainage easement of lot 32 in the Lexington subdivision at 1560 Glastonbury Drive. I think that property owner was here. Yeah, okay, he was here also. I thought I saw you come in. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for him? And this is the second one of the public hearings we just a minute ago to. Okay, hearing none, Counselor?
City of Centerton ordinance number 2023-55. And ordinance vacating a portion of the west 15 feet of the 25 foot rear yard public utility and drainage easement located along the east property line of lot 32 in the Lexington subdivision, city of Centerton, as shown in plat record book 2015, page 667, Benton County, Arkansas, also known as 1560 Glastonbury Drive.
Someone like make motion to adopt ordinance 2023-55.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger.
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham.
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Karen Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
This last ordinance is ordinance 2023-56. This is vacating variable width portion. Some is 3 feet, some is 9 feet. And this is of a 40 foot utility and drainage easement on lot 69 in the Tuscany subdivision at 101 Florence Drive. This was heard at the planning commission at the last planning commission meeting. And they also made a recommendation to move this forward to the council. And the property owners are here with us if you have any questions for that. Okay, hearing none.
I guess my question is why is it fluctuating?
Gas line, right?
It's a curved,
Yeah, it's curved
curved lot.
It's up there,
Cause this is on Main Street.
It is.
Corner.
right on the curve.
Yes.
Yeah, and after they looked at the plans, they felt like they didn't need as much, because I think originally it was 9 foot. The whole thing was 9 foot of the, and leaving 31 foot, but after the planning commission and the owner talk, they were able to reduce it some. Question though. All right, any more questions? Hearing none, Counselor.
City of Centerton ordinance number 2023-56. And ordinance vacating a variable width portion of the 40 foot rear yard public utility and drainage easement located along the rear property line of lot 69 in the Tuscany subdivision, also known as 101 Florence Drive, city of Centerton, as shown in plat record book 2005, page 1233, Benton County, Arkansas.
Someone like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-56.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Okay, roll call.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger. Yes. Keith Higginbotham.
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Karen Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
All right. Next is ordinance 2023-57. This is accepting the final plat of the Prairie Brook Phase 5 subdivision. This subdivision is located on the corner of Tycoon and Bush Road. And this is lots 150 through 190. That's 41 lots, right? 41, okay, I thought I had it earlier, okay. This was heard by the planning commission at the last planning commission meeting. And they made a recommendation to move it forward to the council. Prior to the meeting, it was given the bonds that are listed, water and sewer bond for $121,952, street bond for $248,147, and the drainage bond for $138,402. And I already gave them put them in planning, so. Anybody have any questions on this?
City of Centerton ordinance number 2023-57, an ordinance accepting the final subdivision plat of the Prairie Brook Phase 5 subdivision, creating residential lots 150 through 190, city of Centerton, section 6, township 19 north, range 31 west, Benton County, Arkansas.
Someone like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-57.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger,
Yes.
Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
I'm gonna bring Lorraine up again for this next one. This is ordinance 2023-58. This is amended Title 14, Section 14.04.04 of the Centerton City Code. And I'll let Lorraine kind of give an update on it. This was heard at the last planning commission meeting, and we did recommend for approval by the city council.
Residential townhouse zoning districts. We've always had a lot of problems with people thinking that these are the same as a duplex or same as multifamily. So the first thing we did was clarify in the description that they are single-family attached homes. They are sold on their own individual lots, built on their own individual lots. So that was the main thing. The other thing we found is there was a lot of inconsistencies within the zoning code requirements. So if you tried to meet this, you couldn't meet this. So we went through and revamped. So what I believe that you have is the code where it has the markups of what was changed. So the minimum lot area, it was 4,250 square feet per unit, so we put 4,000. And so just reduced it a little bit for for the single family attached. We also renamed it to RTH-2, meaning 2 single family attached. The minimum lot width, instead of a 42.5, make a 40, or consistent. And then the rear setback on the townhome district, it was 25 feet. The only one that we have 25 feet is our low density. So be more consistent for this, we have a maximum density of 7 units per acre. Those are in the 20-foot rear setback. Then also between the homes, it's slightly reduced from 10 feet to 7 feet, which is what we have for our single family homes now.
So this one, we're condensing it, that we're making it smaller.
It's condensing, it's reducing the setbacks, but the 7 units per acre is kind of like around what we were getting 6 to 7 anyway. Well, actually, I mean, there were some, depending, they're kind of all over the place. So I'm gonna say 4 to 7.
This is less units per dwelling or per.
Well, this just establishes it more like in line with our zoning code of where you would expect to find townhomes.
Right.
So that 7 units per acre is typically what we use for a medium to high density. So those were the main changes. We did add a section on here to allow for a rear load. I don't know if you've been to Bentonville and they're downtown, but they have the townhomes and, they have the alley where they can, access and then so we added provisions for that, there either be street parking or some type of a parking area designation if you do have that. Because if you don't have that street parking, it's gonna end up
In street
One
park.
of these would fit nicely on greenhouse.
Yes.
Pardon me?
One of these would fit perfectly on greenhouse, right?
Sure. And if they're designed right. So another thing that we did, we added a block length, maximum block length. We've been getting some block length. So you might have 2 units and then you'll have the exterior 14 feet, then you'll have another group of 2. But instead of those continuing on, we have some subdivisions that have done the entire 1,320 feet, with street, or they would be a little less. But instead of these long streets that we're ending up with, this gave us an opportunity to limit those. So that we didn't have to break it up with blocks. So we added that requirement. And then also added accessory building setbacks. This had a requirement that there, it just allowed 200 square feet, but there was nothing in regard to setbacks or anything. The two zoning, another thing I'll just mention, we moved architectural treatment, R1. These are single family, and with the new state law that went through that we couldn't, that cities couldn't control the architectural treatments for single family homes. We needed to remove that.
Can you explain what that means?
Pardon?
Can you explain what that means? The city can't control the architectural.
For single family homes, architectural treatments, it would be like what materials they can use, what design it can be.
So someone could come and make a tent out of their home and we have to say, okay,
It's a single family.
it's a single family.
No family tent.
Interesting.
Would you know?
City
that-
could have said it once.
Well, it
Arkansas alone.
has to be permanent. It has to be a permanent structure.
That's true, because we did have the trailer houses that.
You could build a house out of wood and you put a yurt. Yeah, I mean, it's,
What'd you call it? A yurt.
Yurt. Oh, that's what it is. See, I have never. I don't know. Yurt.
okay.
Okay, then we also added the requirement that that they must be sprinkled. Which that follows with what you heard last month for the building
I
code.
know we've talked about this in the past too. Do trash, they have to be bricked around trash, right?
These are single family homes. We don't have requirements for trash containment.
That's just
Your businesses.
Oh,
All businesses, the dumpsters.
Well, we got the multi-family piece, sorry.
a family.
Okay, which we're going to also get away from, and we changed that name where it's townhouse 5, means that they can put 5 units together.
Why did we change it from family?
Because everyone thinks multifamily is. And that's not what these are. That's not what this zoning district represents. It's single family attached.
I was looking at it and captured ours a long time ago. Didn't we do this exercise last year where we went through all of our zoning and had a long meeting? In the old.
Did the map, yes.
Yeah, but we also talked about the different areas. Underneath that, cause it was my first meeting.
That's been a couple of years.
It was a work session, sorry.
Yeah.
And we talked through all of these, so like, I'm just curious, like,
They're just updating the code.
yeah, but that's a big change to change that. I mean, it's just naming convention, but like,
But was still for the same, it was the same purpose. It was just that the way it was worded. People didn't understand that it was single family on their own lot. We're trying to make this
Rentals.
very clear that multifamily, you put multifamily in a title.
People automatically have rental.
but on this one, you can put 5 units. per
Don't
acre.
get past it.
Townhouses, they're not connected. They're separate,
Townhomes,
separate.
Standalone.
they're attached. They're single family attached.
So this 5,
There would be 5 of them.
Up to 5 units to get 3 to 5 units.
sorry, I didn't.
What you're saying
Still a
is,
multifamily,
It's still a
technically.
multifamily on top. It's one building.
It's not.
Yeah, I think the
No, but-
confusion is she said
I
like,
think we're trying to hide it.
but
That's
it's,
what I feel like too.
Like this, we never.
I feel like the,
Play on words.
No, I get it. It's
No, it's a
dwelling and there's no joining.
of the
walls.
district, of the intent of the district. We still have the R3, which has the duplex.
I get what Justin's saying though. It's almost like a play on words. It's,
Each one owns their own lot.
so it's not rentals per se, yeah.
right.
You can't control that. Someone buy it and rent it.
Same thing, if you had condominium simply in a high rise. Each one owns their own condominium.
Like a condo, kind of like a condo.
technically it's still a multifamily.
I look forward to seeing somebody that comes in here and buys it on you like downtown Bentonville. They're gonna rent them. But okay. I'm following.
Okay, so we established 9 units per acre on the maximum density. It did have MF 12. There was no way
Back up.
Back up now.
to get that, to get 12 units per acre anyway. So we made it
Straight.
Is that what our surrounding cities identify these as too?
I mean, let's,
A little bit.
it is play on words, multifamily, 5 duplexes together.
This nomenclature. To where
What? I'm sorry.
this nomenclature is labeled incorrectly. So if you look at our.
Identified as a multifamily.
Our R three district does have that multifamily, you can have apartments, the condos that he was saying, and the duplex to where you're this lot, I own every building on that lot. So we have a couple of developments going in on Kimmel where they own the entire 20-acre lot and they own every structure in there. That's the multifamily. So in this one, you own the strip of land, the whole thing. You are on a 0 lot line, so you do have a.
Share a wall.
You've got the firewall between you and they have to be sprinkled. That was part of the fire code. But now it actually identifies, it's not really multifamily because it's still a subdivision, part of a POA. You own that lot. If you're on the end cap of one of those, the 3, you own that and the land behind going around. It's not public area. So it's not really multifamily, like you own those. And we have these, there are several of these neighborhoods going in where we have the triplexes, quadplexes going in already.
What do they call it locally though? Is it, what do they do around us in surrounding cities? What do they call it? What do they call these in like Bentonville, Gravette, Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville?
call them single family 0 lot lines.
So they are single family there too. Okay.
It's like who owns the property. Where
I call it shared wall townhouses.
Sure, well, works. I mean, again, it's that 0 property line.
No.
You go right to the edge and it really doesn't delineate between. So.
Single family, duplexes, townhomes, all fall into. the-
Shared wall, Robbie.
Yeah.
Above that, that falls to the commercial.
The big difference is, part of this is what we've done is now add further stipulations where we can actually control some of those block lengths, which helps reduce some of that density, or they could go home, and you could have 40 homes in a row. No roads control in between, walking, and that just drastically increases your density. With this one, now we're more controlling that block length and then making the setbacks match the same thing as our R3. So really the only difference between an R3 duplex and the R3 twin home 2 is that you don't own the whole both sides of the building. Like you own one and rent the other one out. Well, now literally you just own the one half and then sell the other half.
Like, I was saying, the RTH 5 basically follows right the same with the J, with the RTH 2, except that it's 9 units per acre. Since you can do 5, the minimum lot area is reduced to 3,000, which is what it was. So that didn't change. It just didn't make sense that there was 8,500 square feet, 8,500 square feet for what? You couldn't even get 3 units on that even, so that was removed. And we removed the lot depth, give them a little more flexibility. We've had some that if they go a little wider, then they don't necessarily need that depth, depending on how their building is designed.
That again was every zoning district only specifies a minimum lot width and a minimum area. This was the only district that actually said minimum lot width, minimum lot depth, minimum area. So it just cleans it up to make it match the rest of them.
And then because these are 5 units together, it was decided that there would be, at the exterior ends, that there would be 10-foot setback on the side, so 10-foot heat on this lot. And then when the next building starts, there's 10 foot. So there's a total of 20 feet between the structures. And that was reduced from 25 feet. There used to be 50 feet between. But these buildings were so spread out. We felt that it would be better, put them closer together. And if they're limited to the 9 units per acre, then they could use the rest as green space as common areas.
That came up recently, the 50 foot. in the planning meeting and
Yes, yes, it did. And then when we got looking to see what else that something complied or didn't comply with, it was all over the place. So
So again, we're balancing everything, making it really,
the limiting units per acre.
We've actually decreased the allowed density from, it used to be 12 units per acre, with this one it's now 9, so we've allowed density. To require this, so regardless, they have to do that, they can't change what they were, we'll actually have more green space now and less side yard.
And there is one change in your markup. It's correct in the ordinance, but the maximum building coverage for the RPH 5 is 55%. With the setbacks that were applied, there was only 55% buildable area left. Instead, that, I believe that it previously had 40%, and then it was marked as 60%, but that wasn't what was approved, so that was.
before they had 40% buildable.
Yes, which didn't even match what was allowed as setbacks. It was less than what was allowed for the setbacks. So that's one of the inconsistencies that we needed to correct in the code.
I have a question real quick. So when you say inconsistencies within our own code, is that what you're saying? Like some were here, some were there, like it was kind of,
Within our own code, it was, if you complied here, you couldn't comply here. So it was just very difficult to comply with. And that's why we were getting PUDs on all of these, because
Didn't comply.
they weren't able to meet, something in the requirements. So
you guys are
it was
doing a
just
pretty good job of.
a good cleanup.
I said, it's not, from the past, it looks like you guys have been doing a good job of getting them in and, getting them to where they need to be as far as code wise.
We had to work around a lot of things though. This will make it so much easier if we have things for.
Concise.
Yes.
And now, is this something that you guys as a team sat down and said, okay, this is where we need to go? Or was there someone else that
Planning Commission.
guided you guys? Or was it just you guys saying, hey, we've got all these inconsistencies, look, we are here, or?
Alan and I worked on it and then we gave it to Carver for review.
We were looking at it before, the setback in the coverage area. If you met the one and built your buildable area, then you already exceeded the limit. So we've got rid of those inconsistencies, gotten it so it's cleaner, and matches the rest of our code. So like this, I keep going back to the easiest one, the RH2. It actually has the exact same requirements as doing the duplex, the R3 duplex. Just again, the biggest difference is that you have 2 people owning that building separately.
And then when we had Paul, we asked Fire about it also. I'm sure that.
Bringing up fire, just a question on, I'm looking at page 5 of this where it's showing the 5. And then you got another 5 and you got 10 foot to the lot line and then another 10 foot, you start another. My question is, are the outside walls a firewall?
They don't necessarily have to be, but that go through the building permit. We wouldn't know until they actually submit the building permits. I've talked to the fire marshal today about a job just like this with homes that are 10 feet apart.
Well, the reason I ask is because if somebody puts a privacy fence
We have that
on
they.
the lot line, then you've only got 10 foot in between each structure.
Can't put privacy fences here.
On the property.
No, they're joined walls. Why would you want to do that?
No, but they on the outside.
The outside.
Yeah, what, you can't build a fence in less than an inch.
No, it's just like you on your property line.
Yeah, but a 2x4 takes up,
No.
it's on both.
In between the 2 5 units.
Oh, yeah, who cares?
Well, because if this structure catches fire, fence is probably gonna catch fire. Then you have a problem of this other 5.
Like Paul.
In Centerton, you won't have to have a firewall in between the two.
That's not close enough.
I was saying, what if they do wanna put a fence, cause you own the property, go into the lot line.
Yeah, he said yes.
So.
He thought he was talking about a different place. I'm gonna go. Yeah, the fence is good.
Now, under 3, besides being sprinkled, it says and comply with chapter 11.36 of the Centerton Municipal Code. And that is what, of the townhome section in the building code that was just amended last month. So it still has to comply with what they are requiring in for the building.
And are we saying that, correct, I'm assuming they have to be sprinklered?
Yes.
Yes, that's what it says here.
Okay, just wanna make sure I,
That's what we amended for the last month of the month.
Yeah.
Cause it was kind of that tricky situation like she's talking about. Things were getting twisted around with these. And so we just simplified it and said that they have to be.
I was just thinking that if it's stucco on the outside, if one catches fire and you got a wind, the other one's gonna catch fire.
Same Florida.
Oh, that's great.
The total of 20 feet.
And this is reviewed at the planning meeting as well, right? Didn't y'all go through all this at the planning meeting?
Through public hearing, planning.
Yes, I remember, yes.
Lorraine, you have anything else?
I don't, does anyone?
Anything else for Lorraine? Betsy, you got anything for Lorraine?
Nope, just, I'm ready for the community center discussion.
Something. Counselor.
All right, City of Centerton ordinance number 2023-58. And ordinance amending Centerton Municipal Code, section 14.04.04, renaming subsection J from residential townhouse duplex RTHD to residential townhouse 2 RTH2, and renaming section K from residential townhouse multifamily RTH 12 to residential townhouse 5 RTH 5. Amending the code within those subsections and declaring an emergency.
Someone like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-58. We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
yes.
Justin Cowger.
Yes.
Steve Botham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
Section 5, the city council of the city of Centerton, Arkansas hereby declares an emergency and this ordinance being necessary due to the inability to enforce the conflicting requirements as stated in the current code and shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage in approval.
Someone like to make a motion to adopt the emergency clause. We have a motion by Misty, we have a second? Second by Keith. Roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger. Keith Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed, Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
I have a question real quick. Just about this. What does this do? Is this now in effect for anybody new? Like anybody that's existing will go through the old code? This will impact.
Anything new that comes in, yes. All right. First resolution is resolution 2023-35. This is a resolution we pass about this time every year. This just authorizes the county to collect property tax, they have to have a resolution by us to allow them to collect it. So that's what they're doing. All the percentages are the same as last year. So is there any questions on that?
So if we didn't pass a resolution, what do you do?
They won't collect it.
What happens is, what was it?
No, you'll get sales tax, you won't get property.
Spring.
Can they, can they take it off,
Can-
can they take it off their trash bill if they didn't pay last year?
2 or 3 years in Cave Springs.
No, it's
property
happened,
tax,
happened
no
before they didn't do it.
We didn't- So if a resolution didn't pass.
Yep.
They
You
could
like
not
no
collect
taxes.
property taxes.
Correct,
Correct.
not for Centerton.
What would the penalty of that be?
You'd still have to pay them. It's just the county.
They'd be collected, we just wouldn't get the turn back essentially, right?
County would collect the money.
Divvied all out.
County would get the money. We can come to the city.
And so this,
And we don't need.
This is authorized them to
Very
collect.
important. Yes.
this is why I'm asking.
Oh, yeah, no, and I, soon as
That's a great question, Amy.
soon as it's done, I hand carry this down there because of what happened in another city. I make him stamp it. There's 2 copies he's gonna sign.
So this, the county determines the millage, right?
We determine the millage. And 5 is the most you can collect.
It's the most.
It's the most.
Most. 5 is the most.
Pretty much, I think all cities.
Yeah, they're all at 5. Well, I think there might be some.
Qualified, let's do it.
Why don't we do a little less?
You can do that, but that'd be less turned back to us.
Okay, well, what
Just
about our
means more
citizens
money
that
for the
live?
County.
What about our citizens that live in this city?
It
How
just
does
means
they'll-
more money for
with
the
in-
county.
With inflation?
They're still gonna pay the same amount. It's just the county's gonna get.
We're not gonna be taxed less, we're just gonna get less.
Right,
We.
Oh.
the city.
The city of Centerton operating budget, so if you wanna cut it to 2 mills, then,
That for our citizens.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
By not passing it.
Can't triple stamp a double stamp.
Five. It's gonna get collected. The county's gonna get it.
Gotcha.
So if we go less than 5, we're gonna get less, the county's gonna get more. And I'm not for paying the county any more than.
I hear ya, I'm with ya.
All right, any more questions?
Is that a good question?
Yeah, that was clear.
Sure.
Great question, Amy. Great answer, Keith.
All right, no more questions?
Good team.
Council.
Resolution number 2023-35, a resolution authorizing the rate of property tax for the city of Centerton for the year 2023 to be collected in 2024.
Some like make motion to adopt resolution 2023-35.
Oh, man.
second,
And a second. Roll call, sir.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
All right, next is resolution 2023-36. This is an amended agreement with Andrews Technology. Our time system here is on a system called Novatime. We've been using it now for 2 or 3 years. And they have sold to a company called Kronos, which is a big timekeeping system. I think my old employer used to use it too. So the amended agreement is the fees will stay the same for 5 years that we're paying now. However, there is a $2,700 onboarding fee to change over, the software from them to them. That's the only fee. And I was told during the transition, our Novatime will still be up and running, and then they'll just switch over. So it won't be no service. Well, that's what this is. And does anybody have any questions? Hearing none?
City of Centerton Resolution number 2023-36. A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute on behalf of the city an agreement with Andrews Technology, HMS Incorporated, Wilmington, North Carolina, to provide Novatime web-based time and attendance system for the city of Centerton, Arkansas.
I'm gonna make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-36.
So moved.
Got a motion, we have a second?
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger.
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham,
Sure.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
All right, this next resolution, I know Justin likes to hear about parking things, so this is resolution 2023-37. This is an agreement with Progressive Trail Design for the purchase of a BMX park. So the park at Seba and Keller. Yeah, Seba and Keller, and here's a design. Nathan's here, he's gonna talk a little bit about it.
Wayne,
Yeah, you're there, you came
I
up.
was just here for questions. I didn't know you wanted me to talk
You
about.
can just tell them about it, well, since you came up.
This is the trail that we've been dealing with the last year and a half. Progressive Trail Designs has designed other trails in Northwest Arkansas. They look very familiar to Bentonville because they did all the Bentonvilles. Well, not all of them, but so that's why we picked them. They're also with Sourcewell. So we like their concept, and this is the start of that big metroplex of a park on the corner. This is budgeted. This is nothing, I mean, you guys have heard us talk about it for a while. We're just ready to launch it now. Construction will start in March of next year. It's an 8-week project. But this is the first phase of that metroplex.
Is that just because of the seasonality between the trail for the most part, like March, or why so long?
I couldn't hear that first part of the question. What'd you say?
What's the reason to wait until March?
It's just their timeframe. It's not ours. The pump track was an 8-month wait to get on their schedule. But there's no reason
That's cool. Are
I
there
gotta
other
get some-
companies who do this around here too? Like, is that one of the most well-known ones of building these little?
There's not a lot of companies locally that will do it. We just lucked out that they're local. But yeah, and plus I still have some permitting I need to do for it, so it kind of works out with timing wise.
I like it.
I'm super excited about this. This looks awesome.
Well, I mean, obviously little things, but like, well, we have like racks and stuff, to put bikes on. I mean, I know OZ Trails has a lot of those that they can give out, but like.
Those are,
Turn into trash pit because the neighborhood, just next to it.
those are little cosmetic things that we can add, as time goes on, but yes. It is on the radar of adding bike racks and stuff like that.
And will there be a fence to keep that neighborhood from like just throwing bikes on there? I mean, that's what I'm worried about. It's right on top of that neighborhood. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that neighborhood's already fenced. It's already,
Oh, that's right. There's trees there.
yeah, no, that whole area is already fenced. It goes off by fence.
Any more questions? Anybody?
Oh, I'm just gonna make a statement. After this is done, we should have our first council meeting there.
You can do that afterwards.
We still got to add a lot to add afterwards. This is just the first phase of this.
Any questions down there?
You guys.
Okay,
That looks good.
all right, thank you, Anthony.
Anthony.
Counselor.
Resolution number 2023-37, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk as representatives of the city of Centerton, Arkansas to enter into a purchase agreement with Progressive Trail Design for the purchase of a BMX track for Centerton Parks and Recreation.
Someone like to make motion to adopt resolution 2023-37. We have a motion, we have a second,
Second.
roll call.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger,
Yes.
Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Chelsea Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren. Yes. And Misty Elam.
Yes.
I love you, Joe.
All right, next is resolution 2023-38. This is an agreement to enter into with Michael Baker International for engineering services out of Bentonville. This is for the grant that we applied for to make a small connection off of Bonanza Street into the Fish Hatchery Trail. And we did receive a grant of $25,000. I believe it's about $28,000, right? Or 31 or,
25 plus our.
okay. So,
How much would we be out of pocket?
62.
Is it gonna look as cute as that?
No. Yeah, this is something we thought about a year ago, try to gain better access because city or Bentonville schools won't give them a bus, so it's all parental responsibility. And right now they're walking down the side of Fish Hatchery for a few hundred feet, just trying to bypass, so that's a bit safer. So finally got the grant approved. Got preliminary agreement, we at least land, so now we actually want to move forward. So first one's the agreement with the engineer, which we advertised last year. A contract for can get going on. And the next one's going to be preliminary agreement with that lease, so we can keep moving forward, knowing that we'll have the land to do it. The next one's just, there's a little bit more that Brian has to work through on the agreement itself. Speaking lawyerese that I can do, so I'll just be like back-to-back ones to move forward with this.
more questions?
Resolution number 2023-38. A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk as representatives of the city of Centerton, Arkansas to enter into an agreement with Michael Baker International, Bentonville, Arkansas, professional services for Fish Hatchery Trail Project in the city of Centerton, Arkansas.
Someone like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-38.
So moved.
Motion, we have a second,
Second.
roll call.
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger.
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
Bill, do we have a completion date? Maybe by next school year?
Well, I don't know. Do you have a completion date on the engineering part of this? They'll probably get started right away, won't they?
Well, I mean, the total length of the project, do you think it'll be done by next school year?
Should be, but we have to do everything that sort of meets our dot requirements. Because we've got federal aid money.
That's a great group of folks though.
Did I answer your question? Okay, good. All right, next is resolution 2023-39. We need a small piece of this property to make this work. Back there is a small easement, so this is an agreement with PRC Properties, who owns this property, LLC, for a recreational lease agreement. And I have to fix it where it says professional services, so I'll fix the resolution, but this is to go into a recreational lease agreement for the properties, about 850 feet. Our Rabel and PRC still going back and forth, so I would ask you to approve this, when we get to that point, contingent on Brian's review. He added a comment. I think they're going to do it. They just have to send it back. So this is contingent on Brian's approval of the agreement. Anybody have any questions?
So we're leasing land to put a trail for the kiddos
Yeah,
in the
it's-
city.
Yeah, but it's no charge. There's no charge for it.
It's not like a.
So it's not like a real.
Well,
lease.
this covers PRC properties. It's no cost to us.
Gotcha.
What's that?
I had that same question the first time the first
Well, I
time.
mean, that's the language we're dealing with at this point, so that's what we're.
So if it wouldn't interfere with any future development, why wouldn't we just get a green access and dedicated versus?
I couldn't hear what you said.
Alan's gonna answer that for you.
No, part of the agreement we have with them is that what we were putting on their property, not in the utilities, so if it's on theirs, is going to actually be a gravel trail. Same things that's in the fish hatchery property, so it's easily removed and doesn't damage any of their property. So,
Okay, so it's not gonna be something permanent then?
no, it's temporary now, so once they ever do develop, if and when, then they will connect what we've already done. So we can maintain that access.
Good question. Any more questions? Counselor?
All right, resolution number 2023-39, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk as representatives of the city of Centerton, Arkansas, to enter into a recreational lease agreement with PRC Properties LLC, Bentonville, Arkansas, for professional services for the fish hatchery trail project in the city of Centerton, Arkansas.
You're gonna change professional services.
Yeah, I'll fix the resolution, yes. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-39 contingent on Brian's review of the agreement?
Changes the time.
And I'll correct the title.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
It's for property, not for professional. Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger, Keith Higginbotham,
Yes.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Evil.
Yes.
This last resolution is resolution 2023-40. This is allowing us to go into a purchase agreement with Siddons Martin Emergency Group LLC for the purchase of two Pierce Custom Enforcer pumpers. These trucks will take about 35 to 36 months to deliver here, but we'd like to order them now. The price for two of them, they're $966, $528 each. However, if we buy two, I think we're getting a $15,000 discount on each one, which brings the price to $1,933.56 plus $2,000 for the HGAC contract. We have the opportunity to get a full a discount of $197,000 if we pay it full. However, I really hate to put that kind of money out there. Plus, we will earn more interest on the CDs than that. However, we would like to put $550,000 down. We will get a $70,000 discount. And then Justin asked the question, how we would pay for it. What we're gonna do in the 24, 25, and 26 budget is we're on the fire budget, we're gonna appropriate $500,000 the next 3 years to put back in the investors fund to cover this, so we can pay for these when they're delivered, because it is a 3-year to get them.
Why didn't we do these before the brush truck?
Well, he's been researching them and he's just now,
We needed the brush truck.
yeah, we need the brush truck more than we need these.
How long ago did we order the brush truck?
2 years,
Started work on it for
right after I got on. council.
3 years ago?
Yeah, because I brought it to everybody to make sure that they were happy with it, and she thought they were normal.
And then it's some, sometime in the near future,
Yeah.
Right, sometime in the near future, we'll probably bring a ladder truck back. He's doing some research on that, so hopefully next month or two. Because it's gonna probably take a little bit longer to get that than 36 months. And we'll probably like to finance that one. However, the 500,000 we're gonna put back every year, we can pay for that
So
ladder truck. But that's, well, we'll cross that bridge later.
if you could just walk me through, so we just purchased our third ambulance. What determines that we need these fire trucks?
Ones that we're replacing with these two is a 1990 and a 1999.
And because it takes 3 years to get them, right? They're really good.
We were gonna use money out of the bond,
We are.
whatever was left from Station Two, and then we put 150, 200, some money in the budget this year for the fire truck. And then after all the discussion with all the time, because it's gonna hit to the time to replace the other one, then he told me to do this. And so
So we've got two trucks, 1990, 1999. Okay.
And then the two main trucks they run, Dave?
No, I just want to know just like the.
Yeah, these two main trucks will be about 10 years old when these things get here. 11 years old. And the average is about 15 years on them.
that's what we have in the long-term plan.
Thanks Matt for answering.
Finish saying that, I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Mike, I kind of lost my train of thought, but what I was trying to ask is, okay, so they're old, right? So how long is the life expectancy of a fire truck? Like what goes into saying, hey, okay, now we need to look at, because I don't know anything about fire trucks, right? So I want you to educate me, I want you to educate our citizens, why we need to buy two trucks right now.
For the time frame that we've been waiting on, because at first, when we bought the ones in 15, we kind of basically talked about a 7-year turnaround because there's 3 of them. And so that would put them at basically 21 years old when we got rid of them. And then COVID happened, so it kind of put some stuff on delay and made money tighter and everything else. So then we went and we started with this project, and so we could get those replaced. And so we still have 3 more years. So whenever we replace these, the newest one will be 11 years old, and then the others that we'll be replacing will be 27 and 37 years old. We'll hope that's how old the fire trucks will be replacing. We try to normally go about 15 to 20.
How many do we have?
Engines.
And then what do you do when we get 2 new ones? What do you do?
With as old as these are, we'll put them through surplus and get rid of them.
I'm sorry, if this was, I didn't hear Paul talking about with budget. Are these in the budget?
Well, they were, but prices have skyrocketed. We were looking about the 600,000 mark, and everything keeps going up in price like everybody sees. And so
I think that's probably just gonna continue.
right.
I mean,
Tell us if we
no.
order by November 1st, I think is what the paperwork says, they're gonna go up another 15,000. If we go away from 2024 emission motors, then we're gonna go to 2027 motors, and they said there's a possibility to be another 200,000 emissions. And there's just all kinds of variables that I can't control. I mean, really, the price of one of them, we should have been able to have 2.
Do we need brand new right now though I mean,
You don't wanna buy somebody else's problem.
I mean,
Or do we need 2?
do we need 2 right now? Like at
Cause
some,
we just bought an ambulance, right?
I mean, at some point we have the budget, we have.
Well, but I think.
This has been discussed for several years, so.
What are these in? All this has been in the
Plan.
Matt, can you
Have been
just,
budget.
off the top of your head, how 6/11 the last year, how many times has it been out of service? And that's the newest engine we've got.
The 1991, 1999,
15.
2000.
I'll tell you. They can get. But it blows up turbos because of all the new emissions. And the ladder truck is in 2006, and I mean,
Like it would spend, without looking at numbers, between $60,000 and $75,000 this year on maintenance on it, or last year, within the past year.
That's not even asking how much we've spent on 11. We've spent quite a bit of money on it.
Just in 21, it was out of service for about 5 months because we couldn't even get parts for a DEF system.
What other big purchases are coming? I think one thing that would probably be helpful, in fairness to Justin and Amy, who haven't been on the council as long as some of the rest of you, maybe at budget time, bring something to you guys with the long-term. I think that's what we were. You guys will
Talked about the
see.
first work session.
I say, yeah, we've been discussing this for several years.
What else is coming that whole time?
Ladder.
The ladder.
Yes.
And so,
He has a question. He wants to know what to use a ladder for in Centerton, Arkansas.
Houses.
Houses.
Is it your house?
Your house, it's the story, yeah.
It is more, I don't know fire truck.
This building?
They just have to reach.
Decide like what kind of, I mean, I'm just talking, I know we're looking at a budget here, getting into the time of the year. What kind of other, how much is ladder truck?
Off the top of my head, I'm gonna tell you 2.
And is this the only company we can buy these from? Like, is it, no?
We just went off the HGAC program. I did reach out to the chief at Bentonville to see what theirs were, because they went through E1. They have certain motors allocated for that 24 emissions right now. Here's had some available motors, where E1 didn't have those motors available to us unless we bought some demo. But the fire trucks, between what Bentonville's buying and what we're buying, they were about $6,000 difference. And actually, with the discount, these are gonna be a little bit cheaper.
Any more questions?
We did have in the last 2 months, we had a request from Bentonville for the ladder. For
Place on 22nd Street.
Yeah, we put it. Remember what the address is?
They not have a ladder?
That strip mall?
But it was a strip mall.
Yes, yes.
On 22nd?
The one on 22nd Street.
We went up and
Did they have Rogers come on that also?
You talking about the one over there by Alcambaro by Tractor Supply?
Yes.
That's, so do they not have a ladder in Bentonville?
Yes, we had 3 of them on scene.
Bentonville has 3 of them?
2, we had 1.
For 2 million.
and then, so again, sorry, I couldn't hear, but how we're gonna pay for them?
So what we're gonna do the 24, 25, and 26 budget, we're gonna add $500,000 into the investor's account out of his budget. He can do it.
Okay,
So it grows interest and pays it off in.
Yeah.
Because we're.
And then when the trucks come here, we'll have that lump sum of money to pay it, the rest of it. And we felt like if we put a deposit down, it might speed the process up a little bit too, so.
well, I'm
I
looking,
also felt like if you put it all down, it's gonna slow the process down. Cause
Yeah.
right now they know that basically they have 1.5 million. If they get done, they can come grab it.
Right, right.
and I'm looking at your budget currently, you're at 60% right now with 1.4. Is there anything remaining? Right, you got 1.4 remaining.
He's gonna be pulling money out of our bond. We have 350 or 360,000 of the 550 that come out of the bond.
But
He's
what's the
still,
1.44?
Well, I'm just saying, like, what do you think your budget will look like at the end of the year? Will you use that rest of that 1.4? Cause I mean, it takes some of that money.
Trying not to, because all the department heads know that our budgets are messed up. So we've been trying not to spend money.
Not this year, that was 2, I mean, they shouldn't be that often.
Why are your budgets messed up?
With the overtime budgets and all those numbers, they're just way over. So we've been trying to not spend as much money as normal.
Well, I mean, as it stands right now, 67% of the year, we've only spent 64, you're running your budget the right way, which means you're staying under, great job. So if other people are going over, like, that's part of managing the
No, I'm just talking about our financial numbers were a little off. So we've been trying to make sure that we haven't been just wasting money.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand.
Let's start to you about later.
Yeah, I'm
Plus
looking at
one
the
point
fire.
five million as of right
remaining,
now,
as of right
remaining
now.
60% of the year. They've spent 60% of the budget. We're 67%.
What about my overtime line?
No, we're just looking at.
on.
It's not,
Yeah, she hasn't broken
Low,
those.
overtime,
That's on.
it's way over, so that's.
Isn't that factored in here? Cause
well,
it's
would
an
that be
expense.
factored? Yeah, if I'm looking at your,
We're trying to be careful with the other line items because of those.
The line items roll up to this. They should at least. If that's not how Shannon's doing it, I need to know. Cause this is the snapshot of.
The bottom line.
Right, the line items will be rolled up in each of these buckets.
So ultimately, I know that you all want us to stay at that bottom line. There's certain line items there, and one of them is like my overtime budget.
No, that should be in this. Everything should be in this. The one that you're talking about, the details, those should be like the detailed version, but all of it can be captured in a budget.
He's looking at the overview of your
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Item.
we're being careful with some line items because certain line items are over.
There's still 1.5 million remaining though. Like, what are you spending that on?
I'm just saying that you have a large surplus right now, which is great. If we could take some of that and put it towards the trucks, that's what I'm trying to get at.
That's what we're gonna take the bond plus about 200,000.
Well, you have 1.5 though, like, do we-
Well, we got a $5.7 million budget there between the two departments. You got an ambulance budget too, and
but they're also bringing in revenue too.
yeah, they're bringing some in.
That's what I'm saying, like, do we put them?
So everything should be rolled up right here.
Cause the line items that you can't see, like my overtime budget is, it's like 130.
Right, okay. so
That's a lot of money. left
That,
over.
no, what I'm saying is, I know your note, that's 1.5 is, you're not gonna take all that into overtime.
No.
Right.
But like, I've already read my numbers.
Wait,
I've got those numbers.
I think. I would challenge.
Maybe if we have anything left over, we can also put it back in.
That's a big number. Why are we not doing?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd rather do that.
yeah,
I mean, that's fine.
I don't wanna,
We have extra, I'm fine.
We should have extra.
You're only gonna have about maybe, $2 million. Our budgets that will be left over if you are spending correctly, because we have, our two departments have a lot of.
so basically you're saying you share your budget.
No, what I'm saying is like, I've already ran my numbers and I'm just working on his numbers, like projections for the rest of the year. I'm anticipating being roughly about 6% remaining in my budget if I keep on track.
Okay, that's great, right? We should be doing that.
Correct.
And that's what I'm asking, is this 1.4, you expect to use that through the rest?
She's talking, there we go.
And I'll run you numbers. And I'll tell you what I'm gonna do.
But one, call it 1.4.
Well, that's where so 60%, so.
0.6.
Yeah, 3.2.
Exactly.
Well, and that's fine.
Expenses with.
All those expenses.
But I'm just looking at-
With Matt and I are. Tracking the same.
Way over on ambulance.
Additional expenses would have roughly $72,000 left. Our normal operating expenses.
Right.
So that 1.4 will be.
Ambulance is at 77%. That's what.
That's what I'm asking is like, is this 1.4, do you expect to use that for the rest of
Well,
the?
maybe we just do a detailed printout once every other month or something, just to kind of stay on track. I mean, that's where I've seen things.
It's take us 3 years to do that.
All right.
It's not gonna be expensive.
All good?
I get it.
Maybe you good?
Exactly my.
I understand.
All right, now, Justin, you good?
He usually is though. No, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Any more questions for Matt? Hey, guys, any more questions for Matt? Hello? Anybody?
No, we're good.
Amy, you got any more questions for Matt? Justin?
I would like to see revenues and expenses broke out a little bit more.
It's in your Dropbox.
No,
It is, it's just not on
not
here.
wrong.
Scroll a couple pages back. It's there. It's in the Dropbox. All right,
No, they.
Okay.
no more questions? Counselor.
Resolution number 2023-40, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk as representatives of the city of Centerton, Arkansas
I'll stay up here for a second. Go ahead.
to enter into an equipment purchase agreement with Simmons Martin Emergency Group LLC for purchase of 2 fire trucks.
Someone like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-40. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Amy Rochette,
No, I'd like to see one truck purchased.
Justin Cowger,
No, I like to see one truck purchase as well.
Keith Higginbotham,
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Darren Warren,
Yes.
and Misty Elam.
Yes.
All right.
And Bill, just in answer, and maybe in an answer to your, just buying one truck. If we have to come back and buy another truck next year, it might be, almost double. in
Right,
cost.
but
Well,
why
and
did
I-
we get the ladder started earlier? Like, I
Well-
mean, we have two huge.
And I understand what you're saying, Keith, and we say this on every vehicle that we're purchasing. Well, it's gonna go up. Well, it's gonna go up. And I totally understand that, but I'm trying to be a little bit cautious. These are big purchases. We purchased a couple ambulances this year. So I totally understand. That's why I'm just trying to be conservative in right here and right
Well,
now.
also know we have 2 million coming in the ladder truck. I just want to make sure it's, fiscally responsible. I
But
mean,
if we lease, I mean, if we
Test the water about police cars.
do it on payments.
No.
we'll be here, but we got the money back now, so might as well buy them.
All right, we ready to move on? All right, so next is a request, Cody's wrote me a memo, which I'm showing up on the screen. He is requesting to change Officer Lobby, who is now our dedicated traffic officer. We do have a car out there, it does say traffic unit right on the side of it too. It was in the parade and I think it's been working on my street and other streets out here. Walters Road, it works it quite a bit. But anyway, he's accepted position and Cody is asking that he would like to promote Officer Lobby to corporal, who he used to be a corporal. That way he has the flexibility of, he gets a little shorthand on supervisors on a shift, that Corporal Lobby could fill in. Right now, he's making $25.20 an hour, and with this approval, he would go to $26.06, which was his previous corporal pay. And did I miss anything, Cody, or did I get it?
That's it.
Does anybody got any questions on this? All right, someone like to make a motion to approve Cody's request, or Chief Harper's request. We have a motion, we have a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? All right. Next. I get my cursor. Get this zoomed in. They changed the screen up, so it kind of got this Adobe. So, we do have an advertising promotion commission. And Paul Flashnick, who owns the Hallelujah Bakery, he is now getting very busy with the opening of the Mars Mercantile. And feel like he didn't have time to serve on the A&P committee or A&P commission any longer. Well, he has tendered his resignation. We did have a meeting on September 6th. The A&P commission did accept his resignation. So I just need to formally accept his resignation at this point. I'd like to make a motion to accept Paul's resignation.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Next.
I think what you need to do to replace him, since the Mars business is taking up more of his time, to see if you can get one of the Mars.
They don't collect any feedback, so. That's now, yeah, this opening has to be this is one of the 4 spots, but it has to be a business that, either an owner or a manager,
Means we need,
that collect,
which means we need more to get somebody on there.
Yeah, and I'll put an application out probably tomorrow. I'll start getting it out there. But, it has to be someone who's collecting AP. So, all right. Next is just, so we did receive ARPA money. And if we receive over Shannon, pay attention. If we receive over 750, I just want to make sure I state it right. So if we receive more than $750,000 in federal funds, which is the ARPA money, we are required to do a audit. So we did have an audit done, and we had no findings on this audit, and I just put a copy there. So we just need to acknowledge receipt of that audit. So I'll make a motion to acknowledge the federal audit. We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and this is just more of an FYI, this next one. I know Lorraine has been working real hard on our community rating system. They've been she's been putting a lot of time, and Alan. Lorraine and Alan's been working real hard on this. And we were at a level 9. And now we are now class 7, which what that mean? It will, everybody who's required to have flood insurance will get a discount for this. I believe Lorraine said it was 12 or 15%, right? 15, okay, this goes in effect in 2024.
Is this for the city? or-
Yeah, it's for citywide, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
10% bigger discount than what we have.
Okay. All right, next. Bob Anderson, Robert Anderson is a member of our Centerton Water and Sewer Commission. And his term has expired or is expiring. And he has indicated he would like to be reappointed to that term. So I would, anyway, and with that, I would make a recommendation to I'm getting tongue tied, sorry. To reappoint Robert Anderson to the Centerton Water and Sewer Commission with a term expiring June 30th, 2031.
If you need me to step in.
Here you go. Come on up. Here we go.
Oh, yes, there you go.
Someone like to make that motion?
Yeah, Todd killed it.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and just so you know, we'll have another commissioner next year and then the following year. I think Don, he's one of the commissioners. He comes up soon too.
Oh, boy.
Can we, Mayor, I know we talked about this with planning, yes. Is this something maybe that we can do with
We
our
could,
commissioners going forward or?
but we just put 2 on this year, so we had it opened already this year.
No, I mean like
Oh.
going forward.
I would think maybe we would need to have that conversation with the Water and Sewer
Okay.
Commission. What she's asking, Don, is when these terms are up, we want to open it up to the general public to apply for these open positions. And she's asked to do that in the planning commission, so some, you might want to bring back to them and see, get their thoughts in and report back. Okay. This is what Justin's been waiting on, so. Josh, it's your turn. So 2 months ago, I did talk about maybe possibly, I was at the municipal league conference and I asked our bond person if we'd be able to get some funding to do a community center. She has indicated that with our current sales tax collection, with no increase to our residents, we could probably draw another $24 million. So I did kind of have an informal conversation with you last time.
Yep.
And Josh, who is the architect who designed these buildings, is also a Centerton resident. He knew I wanted to do this. He might not be the architect who does this, but
Now is the 24 million, is this what he's gonna talk about?
he's gonna talk about,
Or like, is that just a?
he's just gonna talk about a concept. And then I'm gonna talk to you real quick about seeing if I can put our RFQs out to proceed
So
forward.
you have no idea what this would price at?
Not until we, no.
No.
I'll let Josh answer those questions. This is what he does.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for having me back. As you said, we've spent a lot of time. I'm a co-owner of Modus Studio located in Fayetteville. I live here in Centerton. We do a lot of variety of types of projects, from this building, this type of project to things that you've seen at Osage Park, the Kohler, to a lot of buildings downtown Bentonville. We have a desire to do a rec center, for obvious reasons that, we want to invest into our community, want to see projects start to happen in the growth of a community like this. I come from a sport, architecture background, so I've got experience with that, as well as, partnership with a sports firm that specifically does recreation facilities. And the creation of this is a very conceptual effort. This effort is just to start to get the ball rolling, talking about what does it mean to be in a facility like this. Mayor and I, and a few other members have toured Bentonville's rec facility, started to ask questions about what does this look like? What does it start to become? There would be a whole process if you elect to move forward with this. That would actually be a programming session. This would be pooling what it could be. That would be sitting and shredding and having conversations about what do the citizens want. We want to walk before we run. This, what you're going to see tonight is purely a conceptual effort to get kind of our juices flowing. Mayor asked me to sit down and look at it. Obviously, as we start to do this, we want to have meetings with the public, meetings with other members, and what will it become for our community? So with that said, if you don't mind scrolling through, Mayor, that'd be great. This is, the proposed location is obviously the location off of Keller and 102 that the property that the city currently owns. That location is earmarked because it's property that we currently have. It's property that the city is starting to grow towards. It provides us opportunities to plug into other communities that would be using this. We know that we're on the, right at the edge of Bentonville. Bentonville, would use it. Centerton uses Bentonville's. We would always cross pollinate. We've got Gravit, Gentry, other surrounding communities that would use this because of what it is. We do not have it programmed for exactly what we want. We don't know if it needs one pool, two pools, an indoor and outdoor, basketball courts, walking track, city library. That would be part of that programming session. And so if you don't mind, keep going. What I've kind of done is just some conceptual sketches of a facility, and develop these renderings based on the idea of, yes, it would be a very transparent building. It'd be a building that would conceptually allow people to see what the program is inside. It'd be a building that would be connected to the surrounding area. It'd be a building that shows off the program, the walking track, the recreation areas, all the things that we'd want to see. It'd have meeting rooms. It would serve as a truly community building. Next. These are some interior shots and these are some exterior shots. So this is what you see on the right is actually a rendering of a conceptual idea of what the building could be. The sketches on the left are just some ideas of where we'd have community lobby, where we'd start to have locker rooms, pool, indoor. We'd have a workout facility, maybe on the second level, community meeting rooms and administration area. Because this is such an early, I would always encourage us to do our research. We would want to go to a few other facilities and start to ask, what does this do? When you conceptually ask, what does it cost? What we do know is that the market trend on construction right now is around $400 a square foot. We saw that in post-pandemic world. So when you start to do that, that extrapolates to about a 45,000 to 50,000 square foot building. That may be big enough for what we want. It may not be on those programming sessions. I think it's closer to 85,000 square foot. It's got a large.
I want it to be the same size anyway.
Yeah. So there is definitely, working through that, deciding how much we want to be, what do we want to become? My encouragement, and you can keep going, Mayor, is just that we would start this programming session, help define what the building wants to be, ask questions about how large it needs to become, who are we trying to serve, what are we trying to do? Are we having indoor and outdoor fields? Are we having indoor, basketball courts? What does it need to be for this community? As we've said earlier tonight, we have a lot of great things going for the city of Centerton between the bike paths and all of the progressive ways we're trying to move forward as a city. This would be the natural thing to start to ask about. What do we do? What do we do next? How do we do it? And so we would like to help facilitate that. Motor Studio, myself personally really feel like we would like to be engaged to that conversation. So, yeah.
So, awesome. Question would be, so I listened to the Chamber of Commerce gentleman that we just paid to do kind of thing around the area. Would he help us understand if we went, use him?
The chamber as far as like reaching out to the community?
Yeah, because he was talking about, just generate.
That was something, that was something
So I didn't know how we could include in the process, and if we're gonna pay this guy, him,
yeah.
get ideas to help, the studio like design it and things like that.
Yeah, to see if there's some integration here, is that weird?
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're not leaving somebody out in the process.
One thing I would do, like when we did
Not the design guy, we pushed him.
Right.
well, one thing I would do too is like when we, asked for the bond for these buildings, I had plenty of public information sessions.
Yeah.
We had plenty of meetings,
I don't think that's gonna be an issue. I don't like to.
No, I don't think so either. But yeah,
we can reach her.
Yeah.
See how the chamber.
I think also just thinking up front, it'd be nice to also think through if we go forward with this, like at some point with where everything's going in this area, it would be nice to progress access from a bike path to there. I know we have it over by Keller, but just thinking ahead with, and I know we have a barn in a property adjacent to ours. May want to have some conversations around that. Yeah, I'm talking about the barn and the house that's about.
And one thing I did talk to Josh about, he was talking about basketball courts, because we wanted to have some outside green space and also some indoor space too, and try to maximize what we could here. And like he said, this is just very initial. We just want to get something to show what could happen.
I don't see any tennis courts.
It's pickleball now.
Pickleball.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we talked a lot about pickleball.
Can we talk about putting them outside?
She's a tennis ball and racquetball, she does.
We've, I mean, when we did Osage, that actually was gonna be the archery pavilion before we were finished designing it to become the pickleball court. So it is definitely trending and, we were joking about this in the office and said, yeah, we see it being very much pickleball.
People
Yeah.
Bentonville and play pickleball.
That's right. I think there's so many,
Yes, it's a dying sport. Pickleball is a. Yes.
so.
You obviously don't watch the US Open.
Oh, who cares? Pickleball's up to go.
So what I hope to accomplish tonight,
That's okay.
and I know I opened up the conversation.
I'm gonna say.
If we want to do this, I've done some research. Our next steps, if we want to take to the voters, our next steps is I would have to put out RFQs for someone to issue the bonds. We have a good company now, but I think we need to open it up to the others too. And then
A good company is in who?
we use Raymond James right now. And then I think Water and Sewer uses Cruz and Associates. So, I mean, it's spread out in that city, but there's like only 2 or 3 of these companies do this. And then we hire somebody, which I would probably let the council, we've done that before when we did the city hall, we let the council pick, they made presentations at the council. So, and then,
Say?
Ah, Amy, you're
Nice.
so excited.
I mean, when we do this, we can have committees and all that too, but
I thought
we would do all this until the voters approved it. But we'd have to pass a bond ordinance, by the December council meeting to get it on the March ballot. We won't do a special election. It'll come in I guess that's called the primary election, where they had Republican and all that. So we could get it there, if we start now. I mean, cause I could probably have the RFQs back for our October meeting. And then that gives them 2 months to get the ordinance together and we can get it to the county clerk.
We need 15 days for the RFQs.
Yeah, and I'll check. We do have a bond attorney already, so I'll check with her, make sure we do it. We've used Jill Grimsley in the past.
And when we put these out for bid, though, like, that doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna spend it on.
Well,
I know that, but it's just that, but when they do eventually bid it, they don't have to use up all that amount of money, like, we just kind of get some renderings, correct?
Yeah, I mean, renderings from him, but eventually after the voters approve it, then I have to put RFQs out for the architect.
Right.
And then also the engineer and then probably construction manager like we did with this is probably a lot easier. We had a construction manager here.
Yes.
And Modus he's an architect.
No, I know.
Okay, all right. I just asked, Josh, if he was a resident, plus he designed all this.
Nice to have somebody in our backyard designing, right?
He was excited about doing it. And what we want to do before we, if it gets passed, before whoever we pick, we want to look at several community centers, not just, we went to the Bentonville one. I like some of the things I've seen,
Never heard of
some things I didn't like, so we can look at several and
Absolutely.
Rob back there, he likes to design buildings, so.
Field trip.
Yeah, he helped us with this. He gave Josh a good concept of what he wanted to see, so.
I
So
would just ask if you get it, scale it down from that.
he likes glass. So come on.
Windows. Yeah, the
Well, here's
glass.
a,
Glass costs money,
Right.
and I don't think,
The Higginbotham Tower out here.
we don't,
actually SEPTED standards when I look.
we don't want a Taj Mahal. I don't think we need it.
Prevention through environmental design, so you.
And I don't think the citizens would probably be looking
Yeah.
for it either. So,
All right.
So I guess my ask is, I guess my ask is just kind of,
That's the idea too. Because you can see someone.
so I guess my ask is based on what I just said,
Oh, yeah, no.
we would like to move forward and take this to the voters in March. Yeah, I mean, if someone would make a motion to do
make a
that.
motion
What are we taking exactly?
So
to bring this,
bring this project to the voters.
Can't we have a couple?
Nice.
Beautiful building.
This isn't saying that rendering, this is just saying.
It's an idea.
Citizens to vote, that, hey, we do want a community center, let's move.
Here's what it could look like.
That's what it is.
we want to get it moving so that it can go on the march.
Not picking a view or anything right now. He can make it look like Gotham City if he wants, but we just gotta pass it first.
Yeah, I gotta get the voters to pass it, which, and like I said, I told Justin earlier, there's no tax increase. We can absorb it with what we already have, by the 1 cent cents. That just be a continuation.
The continuation of the one cent sales tax.
Be a continuation of it with no increase.
And I had expressed concern last time about doing more of a park type community, like if we're gonna compare ourselves to Bentonville, like Memorial Park. Where you've got your outdoor pools, you've got your basketball courts, you've got your tennis courts, you can add a pickleball.
Somebody's gonna go out. That's like them run free.
Trail.
Hey, Amy.
No, it's not.
No, I did tell Josh, yeah, we could put some of this outside here. We got 20 acres.
This is just saying, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
we love Memorial Park. Let's see if the.
But you've also got the sports complex out here that might be able to put some of the outside stuff.
Maybe add.
More room there.
I
don't think you.
Leave that for,
Ball fields.
yeah, exactly.
But Josh knows I wanted to make pickleball outside. Maybe wanted to put another pool outside, maybe another splash pad.
So that's the one thing that I'm always a bit nervous about when we start this conversation with renderings is because somebody might extrude this as this is what we're building.
Yeah.
We know that
Right.
this is not yet what we're building. What we want to do is just start to get all the research to figure out what we want to build as a community. And to your point, calibrating that ask, calibrating if we need sports fields here, if we need more pool driven. Or do we need courts here? Do we need outdoor space? What is that? I think if anything, that's what I'm interested in doing is starting to have that conversation because despite this looking like a very finished piece, I assure you, when I generated these renderings, there's so many more questions to be asked. And if anything, we want to get that conversation going because I think that's what really will spark what this is. How much glass, how much wood?
And so
How does it feel?
that after the vote, if it's approved, then you can ask the citizens, what would you like to see?
That's right.
Then-
Tennis courts are-
And then you go from there, but the first thing is getting it done to where we can get it on the ballot, because if you don't get it on the ballot, then you're looking at November.
Right. We
So,
don't want to do a special thing.
Mayor, we had a lot of discussion about the library and all that before this, so I hate for us to jump project to project. So where are we with that?
I'm gonna I wanna pause that downtown until we see what happens here, because part of that problem, before we put a lot of money into it, I learned it's also in the flood zone.
Right.
So I only can do so many remodels.
Right.
Mr. Marsh still wants to help us. He would actually like to lease some space and then maybe we put our senior center down there. But I'll come back at a later time because if they approve this, then we could put a small library. Bentonville one had one in there. It looked pretty nice. So.
Well, I mean, why have separate senior centers? I mean,
Well, we're not gonna make a senior center here.
why not?
Cause it's a community center, like for recreational sports and things like that, and exercise. I mean, community senior center, I think would.
And like I said, being a flood zone, I can't put a lot of money into that building.
Cause remember they surveyed it and said the value of it.
Yeah, I read that.
It's only so much.
And the seniors are still using it. They're fine. Every twice a week having a good time with it. So.
And if we're building up that area,
Well, Dave actually liked to turn part of it into shops, so in the front, but that's a conversation we have later. All right.
Rent out. If you want to build the community center. Give it to them.
I believe.
Give them the building and tell them to build a community center.
Hey,
We'll put a shop in there.
go back.
I make a motion that we start the process on getting the recreation center ready for the March election.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
What do I want to type that as?
Start the process.
RFQ.
Proceed, yeah, yeah.
Pursue the RFQ.
Proceed taking it to the voters through the process. We gotta get RFQs and I gotta get a ordinance in December passed for ballot and then we'll take it to voters in March.
Start the process.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Laughing.
Hey,
Do a roll call.
yeah, Todd, do a roll call.
Everybody getting sassy.
Amy Rochette with tennis courts.
and
Justin. Yes. I know how to get a yes vote.
Sold her, Todd.
Justin Cowger,
Yes.
Keith Higginbotham.
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed.
Yes.
Darren Warren
Yes.
and Misty Evans.
All right, so that's it. So we're in other business. And I have Justin Eichman here with the Municipal League. He wanted to come talk to us. We did have to go to federal court last Wednesday on Cleveland lawsuit. So Justin's gonna talk a little bit about that. Yeah, over on Allen Road.
Wait. I'm
Is
sure
this
it's
the
all
house,
right.
is this the house that was in the flood zone?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
sorry.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you all again. Again, my name is Justin Eichman and I'm an attorney in Springdale, work with the Municipal League. We've worked together before. But the mayor's correct. I'm before you regarding the lawsuit of Cleveland versus City of Centerton. This was a case that was filed earlier this year. It was actually filed in state court, but it contained federal claims. It contained a takings claim under the U.S. Constitution, as well as a procedural and substantive due process claims. And so to federal court, which is normally the practice that we do when we have a lawsuit that has federal claims in it, they're better, usually better heard in federal court. We had a settlement conference last Wednesday in the federal court. And since this was not a matter that you all voted on, this had to do with the administration of a permit, specifically a floodplain permit. We attended, the mayor, myself, Maureen, and Brian, as well as my partner Tom Kicklack, attended the settlement conference. And kind of as these things go, it ended up being an all-day affair. And to the afternoon, I know you all have had a taste of kind of the way those go. And like every settlement, you leave with kind of mixed emotions, and that's just the way they are. You always have mixed emotions on them. But you know, as with any settlement, especially when you're in that room and you're going through and kind of weighing the you know, the reasons and kind of doing a for and against type of thing. There are many reasons why you resolve cases. And so at the end of the day, there was I'll tell you a little bit about what the case is, but the demand was for $167,000.
167 or 467?
167. 167 was the demand that was made. We settled on $22,000. The municipal league is going to pay, would be responsible for half of that. So it'd be $11,000 for the city of Centerton. And that was essentially a cost of defense settlement for the city. And I'll tell you why. This claim did pertain to a floodplain permit. It was perhaps one of the more challenging floodplain permits I think I've ever seen, because the house was not only in the floodplain, but in the floodway. I think you all know, you have an idea of where this is, but it's on Allen Street. I've certainly seen a fair share of pictures. Like a lot of things, it's kind of difficult to, it was a difficult piece of property to kind of initially investigate. It was located initially in the county. When the house structure was built, it was in the county. And eventually it was learned that it was built before the FEMA floodplain maps were adopted by Benton County. So it has a label of pre-firm. And pre-firm means that it is grandfathered into, there's regulations now that if you have a floodplain, a property in a floodplain, and this is much more complicated than this, but I'm gonna try to simplify it. And you want to do a certain level of renovation work on it or addition work on it, that you have to basically raise it up out of the floodplain, right? This is because, you know, whenever there is a flood, if it's significant enough, FEMA comes and pays a lot of money. So they naturally don't want to keep on paying money over and over and over again. So those rules are in effect. However, you have a pre-firm property that predates the adoption of those maps, you get grandfathered into certain rules that allow you to not have to, when you do these renovations or do this addition, raise it out of the floodplain. Because that pretty much requires you to remove the house, bring in a bunch of fill, and then put the house somehow back where it was, which is a very expensive endeavor. So it sounds like, you know, in saying that, hey, that should be easy then, they're grandfathered, we're done here. Unfortunately, what that does is lead us down a path that requires some of the more difficult work that you could possibly do, because what the rules require is that in order to be grandfathered, you have to kind of thread this needle that requires you to keep the cost of the work that you're gonna do at a threshold of 50% of the value of the house. And the regulations on how you come about that are very challenging. And they require you to work with FEMA and with state officials who administer the floodplain program. It's just difficult and challenging to do. And this one was very difficult and challenging. The property owners wanted to thread that needle where they wanted to do the most possible that they could do while keeping it under that 50% threshold. And that's a very, again, that's a threading the needle. And so the short version of the facts are that the floodplain, the property was purchased. I think it had been for sale for quite some time. And it was, the property was purchased and then a floodplain permit was applied for. I think initially it was thought to do a renovation and some additions. The first attempt at getting the floodplain, that was some immediate problems because some of the additions where they wanted to build was in the floodway, which they could not do. And then from then on, there were many different iterations of that project. And there was attempts to get variances from zoning ordinances. It was a long development process, and the process for the consideration of that floodplain permit took, approximately 2 years. And we had some long talks about that, and my feeling after working on this issue quite a bit was, that sometimes you get punished for doing the right thing. And, the city was not denying the permit, but was working with the applicant, trying to get the permit to work. And anytime there was a change, you'd have to start the process again, visit with state officials, get the process involved. Basically, you have to have all of the cost of the project submitted, and you have to have all those costs reviewed. Some of those costs come off the top, some are considered. You have to kind of get all of that coordinated. And it's just very, very complicated. And so when you're threading that needle and you're having to review all those type of costs and there's a problem, instead of just denying the permit, we were working with them and working with them and working with them. And through that, I think there became a very strong level of frustration in that process. I could see where there would be frustration from the property owner because this is complicated. And they had bought a house that they had would be their dream house and hoped to do a lot of work on and have it be something that was better than what was there before. From the city's point of view, there was frustration because this is a very, very challenging process. It requires a lot of work, and significantly, it requires a lot of interpretation help from the state. And the city was getting conflicting advice, made it really challenging. And so instead of just denying the permit and saying, go get your stuff together, come back and reapply, we were kind of letting it roll on. And I think eventually that just bit us because the lawsuit basically said, you delayed this so long that it is tantamount to a taking, that you by this regulation, by this refusal to give us a permit, that you caused us this damage, that you took our property for this period of time. And so those were the facts. And the evaluation of the case was that we would eventually win. I was pretty certain of that. The concern was kind of the cost and the effort it was going to take to get there. This is a taxing issue, in taxing by like a difficult issue. The city had to get advice from one of the consulting engineers who helps the city through planning processes. Throughout the course of this, we were going to have that, expense kind of going forward, and that was certainly part of it. But it was also going to take up a significant time of your planning department. And, I know your planning department is as busy as any other in the state of Arkansas, right now. So taking all that into account, perhaps learning a few lessons too, sometimes you end up with a difficult permit, and this was certainly one of them. You know, we arrived at the fact that, well, you know, we did not believe we did wrong, and we denied that we did wrong. And, you know, my belief, and spending a lot of time going through all the communications and applications and files that went along with this, that we were really kind of bending over backwards trying to make this thing work. And it was in many cases trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. That ultimately the best resolution was to resolve this, to be able to use some of the municipal league money for half of this, and to look, you know, take a few lessons from it. Know that you're going to have some development pushes more and more into these floodplain properties, to kind of have a different approach on them, and to not be afraid at some point just to say, you know what, we got to deny, and you guys got to go back and go back, because I do think that there's an education component to it, that if somebody buys a property in the floodplain, they got to know what they're getting into. They got to know that this isn't, you just don't have a right to, you know, to do everything that you think you can do. And, you know, probably pushing that really strong up front would be good too. But, nevertheless, that's what happened, last week. And, so in discussing it with Brian and the mayor in Lorraine, I said, you know, I would come here and present it to you all. The process would be that the city would pay the $22,000, and then I would, I've already worked this through with the league, but they've agreed, and then they would send a $11,000 check over to the city. It just takes a week or two for the municipal league to process it. So, so that would occur with us in the next two weeks or so. The case would be dismissed with prejudice, and that would be good.
I just hope the property owner bought it without looking at the place first. That house is almost been tore apart a couple of times in floods, so, and it's not gonna stop what they've done. I don't think it's gonna help them.
I saw some pretty scary pictures.
I wouldn't have wanted to be living there.
So is it completely done as in the fact they can't bring that back to planning? I mean,
That's what I was fixing to ask.
Yes, with the next.
they got a new deck on it this week.
Is it, I mean, is it done as far as the city is concerned, as far as whatnot?
They currently have they were issued a flood permit. The other part to this is the flood permit and the building permit were issued very shortly after the litigation was filed, just days even. And so that work has been going on. Now, there's no way that the city can say you can never file for a permit again. We don't have that ability. If we did, we'd be taking the property and we'd be buying full value for it. And during the course of this, I've understood that they may bring another permit up to do some more renovation, and that may be forthcoming. If it does happen, we talked about a process to do it, so it's not as taxing for us this time. And it would be the permit that they're anticipating is a new construction permit, which is a lot easier to process than a renovation permit. The renovation permit is one that really gets you in the weeds on trying to evaluate all those costs. So I think it's worth anticipating that there's going to be further work there, and they're going to apply, you know, for something in the future, but they have to follow the FEMA, the state, and your floodplain ordinance, you know, going forward, just as anybody else would.
So a question. So they were originally asking 167. How did the 22 come? Amount
Negotiations. That's where
He's saying he's like great negotiators. I said, in other words, you're a great negotiator.
Well, and the reason I ask is because, I mean, to be fair, it sounds like it was both parties, right? I mean, we had learning, they had learning. It was just a back and forth thing. That's why I was wondering how, we came to 22 and maybe not more, or.
I agree. I think 22, I think the mayor was at the very upper limit of, what the mayor would tolerate. And what we all felt too, as we were evaluating this, I mean, that.
After he had heart.
Was there, we were.
Right after heart surgery.
The reason we were there all day is that we dug in and we spent a lot of time educating the magistrate judge on everything that kind of went through on this process. And really at the end of that period was when, they made the large move to come down to 22, but it was their final offer. And so
Big swing, that's why I was asking.
it was. It was. And I can assure you, they're not happy about it. But neither are we.
But there can't be any further, as far as right now, any further litigation on that decision, correct?
Anything that happened up until now, there's nothing further that can happen. So.
And there's no deadline of we have to work with them and approve it by or push it back by on the future, correct?
We would work through in good faith, just like we do with everybody else. I just think this one, again, it'll be a different type of permit that if they seek it, won't be as time consuming on us. But I think also, if we get an incomplete application going forward, I think we just got to deny it at some point. I mean, I definitely, it's hard because you want to work with folks and, you try to present that customer service element of it and not just deny somebody automatically. And I get that. But I think at some point, if you're getting an incomplete application and you're struggling to try to get the information that you need to approve it, because the department can't approve it unless it meets the minimum. It's not like there's discretion, it either meets it or it doesn't. Once it meets it, it's approved. That's the way it works. So at some point, when you don't get that complete application, when you're struggling to get it, you probably just need to deny and let them reapply and go through it again, rather than kind of suffer a claim that you've delayed it for so long.
As frustrating as it is, it sounds like we really tried to work with them. I mean, that's it. Thanks. That's a thankless job right there, trying to do that.
And you're saying that they're possibly gonna come with new construction. If they come with new construction, they're no longer grandfathered in, so they're gonna have to comply with the floodplain as it is.
That was, see, yeah, that's Keith for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm wanting to make sure I don't screw it. Fluorine back. Dana Braun.
Deep breath on that one.
So they're gonna have to build it on.
Construction's not renovation.
Although building on stilts was something that we thought would have been a good idea. But, the problem has to do with the location. The problem was with the location of where they want new construction to be. And for a couple of the iterations of it, it was in the floodway, or at least one of the iterations can't do that. For another iteration, it ran into the setbacks for the lot. And so that's when they came and tried to get the variance, and the variance was denied. So this new iteration doesn't run afoul of is not built in the floodplain and is not run afoul of the setbacks of in your zoning ordinance.
It is in the floodplain, so it's new construction.
Not the floodway, sorry. It's not in the floodway, it's in the floodplain. They can do as a pre-firm, they can do the new construction, but it has to be kept to.
50%. Well, they're gonna have to build 3 feet above the base.
Oh, they will have to build 3 feet above.
Oh, God.
New construction.
Be a money pit, guys.
See, this is where I get completely lost with it. But
Pretty good so far, so.
they have to meet the minimum requirements. I guess Lorraine is saying the minimum requirements require them to do
There was a
3 feet above base.
So there was a discrepancy between whether it's pre-firm or post-firm.
But we settled it was pre-firm.
It's not cost the city more money. We probably.
City.
Right. So
Boundary map that one person was considering that was the.
Lorraine, what's your goal in figuring that out on what it is then? Like, how are we gonna get, so we don't end up in this?
They should have that it was pre-firm and then it was bring back.
What are we doing to get that corrected and find which way it is though? Cause I mean, again, just wanna stay on top of it and know how follow-up can be with how much is going on. So like, what can we do to get?
One of the things I recommend, that's an excellent question. One of the things this required us to do a lot of interpretation. And in your, especially in your zoning ordinance, you have the ability to make, she has the ability to make interpretation questions. And if somebody disputes them, you can write them down, you can provide them to the applicant. If somebody disputes it, they have to take that interpretation issue to BOZA, to the Board of Zoning Adjustments. Within 10 days, it gets decided there in the story. If they fail to appeal it, if they don't, it becomes law. And I would strongly suggest that we use that tool, especially on an interpretation issue. If there is an interpretation issue going forward with the next applicant or another one, is to use that tool because you get finality and you don't have that kind of carry on. Trying to decide whether this is pre-firm or post-firm.
So this is my thing. When I hear pre-firm, post-firm, to me, that only signifies their insurance rates when they get a flood policy. The other part is if they stay under 50%, then they don't have to bring the structure up to our current ordinance. If they went over 50%, they'd have to bring the structure up to the floodplain ordinance. I don't know why they got so wrapped around the improvements being pre-firm, post-firm. That's insurance rate stuff.
If it's pre-firm, they're allowed to be grandfathered into the
Insurance rates.
and insurance, but also into the requirement that they don't have to build up out of the flood.
Stay under 50%.
But it does apply to insurance quite a bit. It's complicated, very.
And construction costs are increasing.
Potential improvements, and they have to bring it up in with new, as the new construction. So that's where they would have to, that's where she came in 1927.
Firm is just insurance rate stuff. It has nothing to do with.
Right there.
Oh, well.
Hey, thanks for handling that. I mean, my mind's still spinning.
I wish I could stand before you as an expert on floodplain. I got quite a crash course over the last couple of years. But I honestly, I do think it's a good resolution to have that particular matter resolved, and I think there are some lessons to be learned from it and some things to think about going forward. One thing I would also recommend is to really kind of look at the cost of this thing and kind of evaluate, what you're charging for a permit, because this can be especially on the big ones, can be a real nightmare to deal with.
You're suggesting maybe up our permit cost?
I think to at least look at it. You could also look at if you have one that's so challenging, and you have to employ an outside, help for it, that you pass along that cost. Like, look at that as well, which that may kind of deter some of the more speculative floodplain development.
Great idea.
And, that's one that I think you could look at. So I think there are several things you could look at, denying a permit when it needs to be denied, using the interpretation ability of the zoning administrator, make some decisions and get those to BOZA to resolve, and then the cost might help too.
I mean, Lorraine, I think that's a good suggestion if you think that's something we should look into. That's hardly anything.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if something is possibly in the floodplain or floodway, making a different cost for the permit?
I think they should incur the cost of the trip that have a first flight to do it. They should incur all the cost.
Yes, right, yes.
Yeah, I get what he's saying. Pass through. Yeah.
And I think it's something that you can work with Brian on it and see, but I have seen other ordinances around that when you have like an extraordinary review that has to take place, that you can have the discretion to say, hey, you know what, we're gonna approve this, you need to pay this cost. And that might deal with some of the more speculative floodplain development, that you're gonna deal with people who really know what they're getting into instead of somebody who might not. So Happy to answer any other questions. If not, there would need to be a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into the settlement. I would kind of take care of it from there. At that point, get it resolved.
There's no other questions. I'm happy to say let's go forward with sending it to Bill and let him pay the price
You want to state the amount for the minutes?
for 22. To pay the 22 with the knowledge that 11,000 will be paid by municipal league
Bill,
in
didn't
the
we
next
take
couple
your
of
notes
weeks.
recently?
Yeah, but this is a settlement, so.
It's a
Yeah.
negotiation.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, these things I need to bring back.
I'm sure your heart was beating fast.
No.
We got a second down here.
Who's second, Misty? Okay, let's do a roll call, sir. Just
Amy Rochette,
Yes.
Justin Cowger, Pete Higginbotham.
Yes, sir.
Josie Reed,
Yes.
Aaron Warren,
No.
and Misty Elam.
is that 5-1? I didn't hear Misty. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. So the only other business, thanks, Justin.
Thanks, man.
Hey, Justin, can you send me that W-9 and the contact information? I'll get a check made out for you.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be, all right, the only other thing I have, is we are going into budget season. We're just initially getting started with it. And what I like to do with the budget when we're ready, probably sometime in October. 2 years ago, we all met in a big room and all department heads come in here and say, okay, hey, I'm Matt. Here's my goals for this year. Instead of Carl sitting up here and just telling you what we're doing. So we're gonna go back. We want to go back to that format. We'll do it here, big room. I'll bring dinner, or like snacks or something that is heart healthy. No, just kidding. But
Pizza.
pizza's okay. I don't eat that much. But we'd like to go back to that concept. Also, what I want to do is, I know Carl was pretty adamant about yeah, he's not here anymore, but but making all the raises effective the first of the year. That caused a lot of confusion with our employees. So what we'd like to do is go back to the annual review dates, and that's nothing for the council to vote on. That's a day-to-day operation thing.
Why?
Thank you.
It's
I
because we
was
never got in the
against-
process.
I was against going to the first of the
Yeah.
year from day one.
Hold on.
No.
Why?
The council approves the budget.
Yeah, but
The
why?
amount won't change.
But the whole idea was the process of how and organized the merit and conversations were. We were not doing true annual reviews, doing it certain times of the year, and the concern from department heads was you gotta rush at the end of the year, you're done, correct, but it's getting it done, working on it early and having conversations. I
We
don't
can
know.
still work on one earlier with their anniversary dates though too. I mean, if y'all want to vote on it, let's vote on it. I mean, that really falls into my purview as my day-to-day operations, but I don't, it ain't gonna make no difference on the budget. I think this makes it easier on our
We
people.
should still do it on an anniversary day.
Yeah, I mean, there is a COLA involved. You can do that the first of the year. But the review needs to, it's a lot easier to do it on their anniversary dates. So,
And before we get too late in the year.
On the anniversary date, go back,
huh?
make the raise effective on the anniversary date.
No, I think.
Yeah, and then I'll have to adjust those prorated ones to the
I
first
don't
of
wanna
the
be
year.
surprised in the next meeting.
I'll take that.
I also, while we're out here, like, let's just talk about it, like, when we did the salary adjustments, we also talked about what is the cost of living and Christmas and all that, like, we said, hey,
Yeah,
we're gonna lock it down one time.
Yeah, we're gonna bring Christmas back to you when we get to the work session.
No, yeah, but not for this year.
We're not gonna give Christmas bonuses this year?
When we raised all the salaries, Bill,
Yeah,
We did talk about
we
it.
talked about that.
we did, and we
We
still.
said, hey, we're gonna shoot midpoint and recalibrate, and that's why we did annual evals, is so we get it all to the midpoint and then reset everything. So now we're kind of repealing all of that.
The annual evals has confused a lot of people. I had one employee.
That's not the Christmas though.
No, this is the annual deal. We'll bring the Christmas back next month. And that's still 2 months before we do it, so.
Well,
That's
I
not
think
what we discussed.
though,
Yeah, we did discuss it, but we've had change of people too, so.
We've also had okay.
I don't want to go back and say we're not gonna give Christmas bonuses.
we talked about it last year and we said we would we wouldn't do it. We did it last year, but
Talk about it now.
No, yeah, let's do
I mean,
it.
we're here, let's talk about it.
we said we wouldn't do it. We would give we talked about it and we said we did it last year because the employees were expecting.
Yeah, we did.
And we prorated the raise.
yes, everything was prorated. And
Cause we said we couldn't short them for the first year. I mean, that's not the right thing to do.
it's absolutely, yeah. So we're changing everything that we talked about last year is what I'm understanding.
At the end of the year.
Well, we're going into the next budget. so
I don't, yeah, okay.
We
don't think that's the
we
right
did a
thing to
salary
do.
study.
While we do this, let's just vote on it, make everybody feel good.
No,
We'll all vote.
no, because we're not gonna sway it one way or another. We paid $20,000 for a salary study.
It's not changing their salaries, it's just changing the anniversary.
But hear me out.
Review date.
Yeah, but we're talking about
But
Christmas now
that's part
too.
of it and getting it all.
We also said, hey, they're at the minimum. Okay, you know what? Let's move to the midpoint. Carl did a presentation on, hey, let's also prorate the raise for next year. And we said, okay, that's great. Let's put them there. Let's get them happy. Let's make sure salary study. And we said, also under the understanding, they will still get their Christmas bonus this year. Remember this next year when we have this conversation. Okay, so now we're coming back and saying, hey, we're not remembering next year. Let's push it through next month. Like,
What's the difference if we, let me ask a serious question. What's the difference if we give them the raise on an anniversary date versus the first of the year? What's the difference? The budget number will be exactly the same.
I think it's important to understand as a city, it's important to take care of the workers.
Yeah,
I also think I also think it's not just every year Christmas bonus expectation is what we talked about. I mean, things are to some extent out of budget, like that's part of being fiscally responsible too. I mean, I think that's, I don't think that that's fair. I think it's fair to take care of the employees, but I also think it's
not fair to.
We had this conversation last year on this very topic. We had a conversation and said, hey, you know, let's do the right thing this year and we'll eat it next year so we can get on the annual review. Well, now you're repealing the annual review and you're bringing that back. And so we're kind of taking it and turning it completely around. Because of how dates fell last year. I mean,
Like I said, there was a lot of confusion with our employees because I had one employee thought, well, I got my prorated rate.
that's not.
Now I'm expecting another 1% on their anniversary.
And
date.
Carl presented that. He said, here it is with the 3%, 2.5%, 1%. Here it is to give next year's raise and.
We can leave it if it's that much of an issue. I mean, I just think it's easier for department heads, especially guys that got 41 people, to try to do them all, you know, by January 1st.
Let's just keep buying stuff and give them. I don't think that's not what we discussed last year.
Well, let's get back to Christmas bonuses because that's coming up.
Yeah.
What do we want to do? I mean, do we win? I don't want to tell the employees they're not going to get Christmas.
Well, of course you're gonna say that in front
Can
of
we
them now.
repeat the notes that we talked about last time? I didn't bring it, but I know I took notes. Yeah,
Oh, so
okay.
kind of notes, number.
I know we talked about it last year. We took notes on it. We
Actually.
discussed it and we said that, okay, last year we would do it, but we didn't want to, and we didn't want to take it away, obviously, last year because it was last minute, which is kind of where we are right now is we're
Yeah,
doing
that's
this
fine.
last minute.
We still have next month to discuss it because we don't pay them until November.
Well, I know, but if
Now you
you've
make us
told
look
your
like an ass.
employees that, you know, there's Christmas
We're out
bonuses.
doing that. I mean, we're just discussing. That's what we're supposed to do, right?
No, we basically look like asses now that this comes on. I mean, this was a discussion that happened last year.
We can just leave the raises the first of the year. It's a lot less work for me. I had to go calculate, you know, the prorated numbers, so I just leave them the way they are. It's not that big of a deal. I think it's just a lot of confusion. So what we want to do about Christmas bonuses? Do we want to bring it up next month? Let's get a
We can talk about
recommendation to you.
Let me, yeah, because I took notes on it last year when we talked about it. I like to go through my notes.
Yeah.
And
Let's put it as a discussion item next month and we can hash it out because we won't pay until November. And I do apologize for not bringing it sooner, but we went through some changes over there too. And, you know, so I'll take responsibility for not bringing it back earlier. That's probably on me. But we'll bring it in October. Discuss it. Fair enough?
I think probably, in my opinion, what we need to do is talk to the department heads and find out what they would want to do, because they're the ones that has to do the evaluations on whether you want to do all evaluations at one time and not spend any time on an evaluation, or do it on their anniversary and have a better evaluation done on the employee.
And I've talked to them, a department head, all but one was okay taking them back to anniversary.
I mean, was that their preference to do the anniversary date? Do you guys?
They disagreed with me. They didn't really,
Let me ask a question. How many of the anniversary dates fall in January, February, March?
I don't know off the top of my head.
There wasn't an issue when we brought it up. I don't understand why we're thinking about.
We're gonna leave it past that.
Well, I think it was pushed through by one person. And he didn't have to write but maybe one evaluation, if I remember correctly.
I think we all agreed that that was a good idea at the time.
I didn't.
We'll leave it, and then I'll bring the Christmas bonus back.
I mentioned something.
I don't know, I don't think we should have to vote on this, but I think we should be able to research it and send the notes out. I mean, this was something that we talked about.
Alan, speak.
Yeah, sure.
I was the one he didn't talk to. I was not in the department meeting. I was in the class with, this, not municipally, Northwest Arkansas Planning. The raises were prorated January 1, 2023. So if your anniversary date was September, you got a raise. So if you're gonna unprorate it, would that mean like, so you're gonna wait till September of 24 to give them their next evaluation and their next raise?
They would get the prorated amount that was prorated back, so it'd go up on January first.
So January 1st,
Yeah.
you then give them another,
Whatever the difference was, yeah.
you would give them another 1/4%. Well, they've already earned all that extra money for 9 months.
And we prorated last year.
Prorated last year. So if you prorate it again January 1st, you're gonna have to reverse prorate anything,
Nothing would be.
do 2 reviews.
Yeah, we're not gonna prorate anything.
It was only prorated last year because of where everybody fell.
So if you're wanting to go back to.
We decided we're gonna leave it, or I decided, we're not gonna change it.
You have to
If you go
prorate
back
it
to anniversary date,
to prorate
you're
it.
gonna have to, they got a raise in January of 23, and they wouldn't get another one till September of 24.
Correct.
If you go back to anniversary.
We're not gonna change it now.
Okay, cause that's the one I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna pull that math and that's very complicated.
I would just took their salary on December 31st, added whatever the percentage was, and that'd be the January 1st amount. We're not gonna change it. I don't wanna cause a lot of heartache, so. we'll just leave it.
Good discussion the last year and a half on that. I didn't understand why we would go backwards.
I don't think that there's an issue with maybe discussing the pros and cons since it was the first year that we did it.
Right.
And have the department heads speak to that, this worked really well, this is where it was a struggle, and then we continue to grow from that.
And change is gonna be hard, right? I mean,
Yeah.
change is just, you gotta get used to it. At first, it's gonna be awkward until you get into that rhythm.
Sure. I
I
think
think that comes with help from HR too. Thing on the process.
And as the city grows and you end up with a department with 100 people, then the department head's gonna have to write 100 evaluations in 1 month. So is that fair to the people that work?
Well, I think we talked about last year that those department heads, if they had somebody in January or something, that they would,
Everybody's in January.
right, but they would, the way that they would do it, they wouldn't have to do it all in January. They would have them written up maybe in November, December on what they're gonna talk to that specific person about. That's for how I remember.
That's the reason that Walmart
Carl
doesn't
talked
do
to-
it. They do it on the anniversary day.
Yeah, when I didn't get a raise for a year and a half.
Last year was a push, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I think last year was too, wasn't it?
Last year says they're due October 15th. They'll put you on hold,
Exactly.
That's right, yes.
but they're due next month.
And
And then you would have that period in January to get everything scheduled, go over it with the employee and do all of that.
yeah, so I guess Jocelyn, have you even sent anything out to the team, tell them, in 3 weeks it's due? Have you sent any emails out to the department heads that, evaluations are due in 3 weeks? I mean, we looped you into the process on that last year. I would think that would be something that we would.
Yeah, he can do it, but he won't know what to rate.
Yeah, but that's where HR is a great partner, saying, hey, remember, these are due because I am in HR. That's part of HR helping with that process too. And that tells me it's not being done. I mean, it goes back to the conversation we had last year. The department heads we have strong department heads now, but it's also about getting a clean process. And like, that is a great example of I have in the notes last year, hey, let's make sure we micromanage this process. Let's get it on. And so like, it's a month away and there's no communication's been sent to the department head. So yeah, it does force them to write it all last minute instead of saying, hey, as a reminder, in October, we have these coming up. Like that's working proactively. I mean, I don't blame you for hating doing it, guys. I mean, last minute, I would think there would have been something sent out by now.
Listen, I remember from last year.
No, I mean, to get them done for this October.
Well, Matt remembers.
We know the schedule, I mean, is what, our due date was October 15th. We're gonna go talk about them, and usually what we do for our budget is in November. So then we actually know what the cost of living is, because the evaluation score is irrelevant to the percentages. We're not scoring evals based upon a percentage of a raise, we're scoring evals based upon job performance. So. And then we plug those numbers into the November budget to be able to give into you all. That's why we were given the date of mid-October.
And this is the first year that we will do this new process.
And you gave us till like November or something last year because we didn't get everything moved. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
we didn't have enough time. Now, on the Christmas bonus, I remember you all said you weren't gonna do the same thing, but you were gonna look at it this year. That's what my brain tells me. It didn't say that you weren't gonna do anything. It just mean that you weren't gonna do as significant as what you've been.
And that could be right. That's why I wanted to go back and look at my notes before we talked about it.
Let's cut that off. We're nowhere near at midpoint on the salary study. We're not even close to it. So we cut off the Christmas bonus and say that that's all we're doing. It'd be pretty hard.
I'm gonna go look at my notes and see exactly what we wrote down, what I wrote down, what we talked about specifically. I meant to bring them tonight, but.
It was on November 8th. So, yeah.
Thank you.
We got any other business?
I just wanted to go back to one thing. I don't think anybody realizes, since I've been a floodplain manager before. Probably the amount of work Alan and Lorraine had to put in to go from a 9 to a 7, to get the amount of points. To get your CRS rating from a 9 to a 7, had to take a ton of work. Bentonville's been stuck at a 9 for an 8 for like 20 years. It takes a lot of effort to go from a 9 to a 7, so I just wanted to give y'all a kudos.
We got enough points to qualify for a 5, but there's certain requirements for FEMA that
When you start getting into the 5 neighborhood, you're starting to look at, I know Tulsa's a 1, but still the amount of effort to get to a 5, I couldn't imagine what that took, so.
You have to have a lot of flooding. And then be able to mitigate that flooding. In order to really do.
Typically, I would think with the 5, you gotta have alarms out on your floodways to go off and stuff like that. I mean, seriously, you do. Tulsa has alarms. When it's so high, they've got an alarm that goes off to start warning people, so. So, yeah, I just want to give y'all some kudos. I don't think we kind of went over that kind of quickly, so.
Good job.
Yes, good job.
Any other business?
Yes, I want to go back to the Smart Gov. You said Brian would. give
Oh,
us-
yeah, Brian, we had to get him involved.
Well,
Sorry about that, I did say.
Speaking about monies, or speaking of money,
well, they finally got me involved on this thing and, I know they negotiate back and forth, but I essentially on September 1. Sent a demand to them. Pursuant to the terms of the contract, we have to give them a 30-day notice of our intent to terminate the contract. And I provided them a list, and I certainly planning talking about the issues that we had with regards to those. I received a response back just a few days later. First off, they're considering giving us a credit for a couple months, 2 or 3 months. I think we'll probably negotiate that at some point, but we still want to see where we're at if these things are getting fixed. It appears to me, and I'm not in the day-to-day aspect of it, but it appears to me that they have things have changed dramatically since I've sent my correspondence, and I don't know if are you getting that or not, Maureen?
The one girl was really helping. The one girl. Where is the one?
it sounds like since Brian got involved, they started.
I think it's but the virtue of the letterhead does a lot, so it's yeah.
Yeah, they first came back and they had the same tech work that was going to be working with this I was pretty blunt in the meeting and said she's not able to do what we need to do. We need someone that's seasoned and knows, and someone specific that I had worked with, Lynn, on the flood permitting system. I said, she threw out ideas and, instead of doing that, do this, and so they bless Kayla because she understands the program to the point that they would hire her in a heart.
Oh, I bet they would. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Spend
Yes.
time working with them. They did assign Lynn to work with her. And Lynn has gone through and when she started looking at it, she found all kinds of things that would not work. So we have basically started over on revision it. And then so we're down to where we have a program. We have training for the department heads tomorrow morning. And then the planning department on Friday. And we'll send them data with Thursday night. A database, and then on Tuesday, we're gonna try to go live. For a while, we're gonna have to look at systems, but I don't trust it enough yet to.
Sounds like a launch
not
party.
do the other, so it's still very time consuming.
Well, I think in negotiating, I think we ought to go back to start
Set it for-
now. And all that money that we paid needs to go forward.
The live was.
Earlier.
I think we need a setup fee.
It was like March. Yeah. It was.
We've had to change account managers
It's
for
been
times.
almost a year, hasn't it?
Oh, since we've been working on it, yes.
Yeah, so I thought
The actual,
June, wasn't June the go live?
the second go live.
I think it was the original, but I think they're offered 3 months. Now, here's the catch on it though. Pursuant to the terms of the contract, we had to provide notice, and give them the opportunity to cure. They have 30 days in which to cure. So if they're unable to get all these things cured, we're out. If they are able to, they've complied. So that's what we've got to determine,
Right.
how many additional months do we want to try
How
to.
have they complied if we had a go date and then they gave us another go date and we're still?
Because
we didn't.
pursuant to the terms of the contract, there was a specific way that we had to give notice. That they are in default.
Just gave notice.
Right. And on the other standpoint, in part of the contract, their date to go live has been missed twice.
We didn't.
So
There's not a live date in the contract.
Sure says,
I'm curious to hear.
the original contract on the dates. There's a lot of dates, I don't.
I don't believe that there was.
There's probably a
I think it
timeline.
was.
And it's this
Right.
that they had given us.
I sent you.
Us too.
I think there was a timeline in the
But
presentation.
regardless,
Yes.
it required correspondence to be directed to a certain individual at a certain address, and that had never been done.
Because there was a
As
timeline.
soon as I did that on September 12th.
Well,
But I was sent to-
I'm
sorry, I
thinking,
remember
use
sending
that.
them.
Use that in your negotiating and say, you missed 2 go dates.
And they did give us credit for 2 months
Already.
or already.
Yeah.
And they're going another 3 is what they're on.
We're over a year with this
But-
thing.
Well, we knew it would be
Hey, Dude Solutions is the joke of 2022.
for other things, some things that, I will say.
They presented to us twice because they were upset.
On financial.
For some reason, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was gonna say, but for some reason, I remember when they presented it last year. We were thinking like by the end of last year.
Donna was still with us at the time.
Yeah.
We're thinking it was gonna take at least 6 months.
Just getting.
You had to get, yeah.
Technically, a good company probably could have got that up and going to 6 months. We probably just went, they overpromised and underdelivered. And I feel sorry for y'all because it's.
Yeah, because all the time they've been spending.
Experienced. People helping us,
I mean, I definitely think we need to go back for some money.
it probably would have been, well, I'm sure it would have been such a better experience.
Ryan, when
Having
it comes to
two
negotiate, like,
knowledgeable.
What's that?
Very hard.
when it comes down to that, can we like talk about negotiation, like what to go back? to?
We can, the issue becomes whether or not they have cured everything within
They haven't upheld their, I mean,
days.
we missed deadlines, but it was because of, they didn't have the
But
correct.
the contract required
Notice.
notice, and that was never provided
September.
until September 1.
Even though we send emails.
Dealing with the salespeople is completely different than dealing with the legal side of it.
Tell them to both come to mediation. And we'll bring Justin. Justin's 2 for 2.
In our emails, saying, okay,
That doesn't count.
isn't working on this, that's not that things are.
Well,
Struggle.
Right.
I guess just in your negotiations, tell them not to use us as a reference. And that we will be,
Better
and
Business Bureau.
we will be reporting them to the Better Business Bureau on.
And we're gonna pay for targeted ads on Facebook.
For Target?
Targeted
Ads?
ads.
Or Walmart land here.
No, different.
Targeted ads. You know, when you click on CNN, Brian, and your ad pop up for Nike shoes that you want, or like that, it's targeted ads. On CNN.
Any other business? Anything else? All right, the only thing is, I do have my coffee with the mayor over at the old city hall this Saturday at 9 a.m. if anybody wants to come. And with that, would somebody make a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that, I just want to say that I talked to Matt, and we kind of think that the attendance at the parade for Centerton Days was way down this year. I mean, it was beautiful weather.
It was.
Should have had a wonderful turnout, but I think it was very.
Oh, yes.
I think it's because it's a beautiful day.
Amy, you have something? I thought I saw you raise your hand.
Well, I was funny because I was talking to the people in the mercantile. And they had just found out about Centerton Days, excuse me, 3 weeks prior. So,
So they weren't on Facebook.
yes.
We need something on our website.
I heard, bikers going by saying, what's going on? Oh, they're having a parade. Parade? What kind of parade?
I'm in. Let's throw some candy.
So I don't know if next time we need to do some radio advertisement again.
Let's just add.
Radio.
No, I know, I've heard it, but more because to Keith's point, not everybody's on Facebook.
Let's do it in the mercantile.
Half
then.
half the stuff I missed that you put on there.
Where else did you post it? I mean, there's.
The website,
Twitter, Facebook,
Site,
Instagram.
X actually,
website,
it's on Twitter.
Radio.
X.
Oh, thanks, sorry.
TV station,
Right.
TV station.
I think we need to blame it on the A&P.
We don't have to.
All right, so
Kudos to the fire department. The pancakes were extra fluffy this year.
trying to get us out of here.
I mean,
All right, all right,
I think
We'll
Matt
move to
should
adjourn.
have brought in over.
motion, we have a second?
I didn't.
All in
Ready
favor?
to go. He was.
All right.
Thanks, Darren. Good seeing you.